Welcome back, you brave, half-mad souls with sleepy history
What in the
today.
actual? Told ya.
You've clicked on the nastiest, filthiest, most brain-melting episode yet.
Dance the
This ain't
demons
just
to
a
hell.
plague, it's a medieval hell buffet. We got people bathing in cow piss, rubbing pus on their faces like holy moisturizer, eating boiled rats and calling it family dinner. One lad swore drinking his dad's pee cured headaches. Newsflash, he died. Of everything. So buckle up, light a candle, maybe grab a vomit bucket. You're about to witness 10 days of disease delusion and diarrheal destiny. Comment below what time it is, where you're watching. Let's see if you're from the past, the future, or just stupid enough to time travel here. And tell me, how long would you survive in this festering nightmare? Be honest. Most of you would be skeletons by day 2.
Welcome to 13. You're awake. Great. Welcome back to the year 1348, you lucky bastard. My name's Shitty Pete, and no, that's not a nickname. That's my job. I shovel shit. Literally. Royal turds, peasant turds, holy turds, you name it. I've scraped it off a stone floor somewhere. In this world, if you're knee-deep in shit, at least you know you've got a job. Now listen, you've just respawned in what I like to call the golden age of rats, fleas, and really bad decisions. You're in medieval Europe, baby. Smells like roasted goat and death. The good news, you're alive. The bad news, so are the rats. And they've brought friends. You see, you're currently sharing your straw mattress with about 16 fleas, 3 lice, and probably a dead cousin. Hygiene, that's a myth made up by the French. And bathing, please. Only rich people bathe, and they die just as fast as the rest of us. I'm cleansing myself with a garlic clove and a desperate prayer to Saint Armpitius. Open your eyes, sweetheart. You're not dreaming you've time-traveled straight into a swampy, overpopulated medieval village where nobody bathes and everybody's suspiciously related. Chickens sleep in your bed. The neighbor's cow watches you pee, and there's always some greasy bloke offering to suck your blood out with a leech for balance. Hungry, too bad. Forget pizza. Here dinner is whatever the rats didn't finish. Or if you're fast, the rats themselves. That's right, rat skewers. Medieval kebabs. Eat fast, die slower. Why, you ask? Because you've landed smack in the middle of the Black Death. Though back then we just called it that bastard cough that kills quicker than taxes. People are dropping like flies. No one knows why. Some say God's pissed. Others blame the stars, the Jews, or Gerald the goat, who might be Satan in a very convincing wig. The priests, bloody useless. They keep yelling, "Repent!" And we're like, bitch, I've been repenting all week. I still got a boil the size of a turnip on my arse, and nothing but spoiled cabbage in my gut. Did you know in 1348 folks started killing cats because the church said they were demonic? No cats is more rats equals guess what? The plague parties got lit. Meanwhile, the royals safe in their castles. They called it quarantine. We called it screw you as we wiped our asses with straw and died in puddles of mystery juice. You're probably asking, how the hell am I supposed to survive this? Oh, my sweet, soft-palmed little time traveler. Buckle up. The horrors are just getting started. We got witch burnings every Thursday, hangings every Sunday, the annual Piss and Pustule Festival, TM, and live musical acts by Screaming Widow No. 3,
and the moaning corpses. Welcome to the Middle Ages, where hope dies faster than your neighbor's black boil, and the only guarantee in life is shit. Follow me, Shitty Pete. The first bloody morning. Anyway, back to the morning. You wake up. Not in a bed. Don't be daft on a pile of straw that smells like wet dog piss and that weird cheese your uncle used to make from goat armpits. Congratulations, you survived the night. That's already more than your cousin Tom, who died yesterday because he sneezed too hard and his lung came out. Poor sod. You try to stretch, but your left arm's numb because there's a rat sleeping on it. You slap it off, and it squeaks like you just insulted its mother. Which, to be fair, you probably did. There's a family of them under your floorboard. One of them's called Gregory. He's the size of a chicken and once stole a whole turnip from your sack lunch. You crawl outside, which is just a wooden door that barely hangs on its hinges, and the sun hits your face like God just flicked you in the eye. Your shirt, still damp from yesterday's rain. Your socks haven't been washed since King Edward grew his first pube. And your feet, hope you like trench rot. The public latrine. Now listen here, you've got to take a shit, right? Of course you do, but there's no fancy toilet, no porcelain, no privacy. Just a big communal pit behind the tavern, where everyone squats together and pretends they're not silently judging each other's splash sounds. You take your spot between a guy with explosive diarrhea and a nun humming something suspiciously upbeat. The air smells like boiled sin and fermented cabbage. You squat and pray you don't fall in, 'cause that's how Gerald died. One slip head first into the poop pit. They say his ghost still moans at night, mostly because no one pulled him out. Hey guys, welcome back to Surviving the Shitscape. Today I'm showing you how to wipe using just moss and a stick. No hands needed. Don't forget to plague-proof your butthole with a prayer and half a garlic clove. Stay sanitary-ish. The neighbor with the cursed feet. On your way back, you pass Old Marge. Now, Marge's feet are a medieval mystery. They smell like someone pickled sadness and left it in the sun. She's sitting there barefoot, scrubbing her toes with a dead fish. Claims it's folk medicine. Claims the fish whispered her a cure. Back then, folks believed disease came from bad smells. They called it miasma. So how'd they protect themselves? By dousing themselves in perfumes that were even stinkier. You nod politely while holding your breath because if you say anything rude, she'll curse your cows again. Last time your cow gave birth to a chicken and then ate it. Marge winks at you. Got a new boil on me back if you want to pop it later, she says. You fake a coughing fit and sprint away. She yells after you. Suit yourself. I'll let Gregory the rat do it. Church time. It's Sunday, which means you must attend church. Not because you're holy, God, no, but because if you skip, people assume you're either a heretic, a witch, or French, none of which are good. So there you are, crammed into a pew next to a man who smells like moldy meat and keeps trying to sell you a toenail he swears is a saint's relic. The priest drones on in Latin, which no one understands, but everyone nods like it makes perfect sense. You try to stay awake, but your brain is replaying Marge's foot boil in 4K. Then the guy behind you sneezes. Loud. Wet. The kind of sneeze that has emotional baggage. You feel a warm mist on your neck. You whisper, Jesus, Joseph, and the plague rat not again. He shrugs. It's just the dust, mate.
Hi, I'm Brother Chad Monk and skincare influencer. Try my new Holy Essence TM face tonic made from the tears of orphans and blessed onion water. Guaranteed to prevent boils, curses, and awkward pew rash. The rumor of death. That afternoon, the whispers start. The plague's coming. Someone says, you pause, mid-beat stew. Which one? The boils or the arse? Bleeding one. No, the big one. The Black Death says, Joffrey, the blacksmith who once tried to cure hiccups by swallowing a toad. Your whole village turns to look at each other. The mood drops faster than your trousers in a public bathhouse. Some folks run to pray. Others start burning herbs and sniffing crushed emeralds. Marge just licks a tree and says it tastes off. The priest organizes a fast. The baker starts selling plague-proof bread, which is just moldy crust with extra garlic. Real fact break. Yes, this happened. In 1348, people genuinely thought garlic-crushed gems and goat pea could protect you from the plague. Others blamed cats Jews whined or being too horny on Sundays. They also, fun fact, killed thousands of cats thinking they were the problem. Result: more rats, more fleas, more plague. Smart move, huh? So you sit by the well and think, shit, maybe I'll die. Then you remember you've been eating rat meat for weeks, sleeping in lice nests and pissing next to a goat that coughs like it has a secret. If the plague wants you, it's gonna have to wait in line. Shitty Pete appears next to you, gnawing on a stick of old cheese. Cheer up, lad. If you survive this week, you might get to see someone spontaneously combust from bubonic boils. Good entertainment, that is. You laugh. Then Marge farts loudly in the distance, and 3 birds drop dead mid-air. You stop laughing. Night falls like a shovel to the back of the head. You're itchy, hungry, and emotionally violated. Your bed is straw. Your pillow is also straw. Your dreams full of rats doing the Macarena. A real rat skitters across your face. You slap it. It slaps back. Life's fair like that. I sit in the corner of your hovel eating a raw onion and judging you. You made it through day 1, I whisper. Barely. But hey, that's a win around here. Average medieval lifespan, 30 to 35 years. If you made it past winter without dying of fever fleas or food poisoning, you were basically a demigod. Sleep tight. And if you don't, well, the bedbugs will do it for you. Day 2. Wake up. Shitface. Morning. Well, more like fuck you o'clock, because the moment your eyes creak open, life already kicks you in the dick. Your stomach's screaming like a banshee giving birth, and your ribs feel like a church bell after Sunday service. You ate 1 limp-ass onion sprout yesterday. 1. Now even your farts are too poor to show up. You dig through your miserable excuse of a house, praying for food like a beggar on fire. Nothing. Just 1 ancient lump of bread that could double as a brick. You chew it and feel your teeth file for divorce. Tastes like despair and gravel. Breakfast of champions. You freeze. Who the fuck is that food delivery numb? This ain't Uber Eats, baby. It's your nosy bastard neighbor. Oi, they're chopping some bloke's head off in the square. Wanna come watch? Oh, great. Just what you needed. You're starving, sleep-deprived, and now society expects you to shuffle over to town and watch a public decapitation like it's a bloody talent show. But sure, Why not? Can't afford meat, but apparently you can afford trauma. You drag your ass to the town square. It's packed like a free buffet. Kids on shoulders. Grannies with popcorn. Okay, stale barley. One guy brought a stool. Another's selling execution snacks, probably moss wrapped in sadness. You spot someone holding a chicken like it's emotional support poultry. The criminal. He stole a salted fish. That's it. Not even a big fish. Not gold. Not a relic. A stinky-ass, half-rotten dollar store fish. And guess what? The fish smells worse than his crime. The executioner steps up. Shirtless, hairy, sweaty. He raises the axe, grunts like a pig in heat, and heads off. Blood geysers out like a meat fountain. A kid next to you gets sprayed and laughs like he's just seen fireworks. Someone claps. Someone else faints. You just stand there hungry as hell, drooling not because of the violence, but because the half-scorched body beside you smells better than anything you've eaten in weeks. Disgusting, yes. True, also yes. Execution over. Time to find food before you hallucinate and bite a priest. You stumble through the muddy lanes and land in the market, which is a glorified pile of crates, rodents, and suspicious fluids. You see her. The butcher woman. She's selling meat. No sign, no name. Just a slab of something that might have been alive last Tuesday. It has fur. It has flies. It has the same smell as Gertrude's unwashed thigh crease from yesterday. But hey, it's cheap. You squint. Could be goat. Could be dog. Could be Gerald from the pub. Who cares? You buy it one bite, and you regret every life decision since birth. Texture, like biting into a rolled-up sock dipped in sand. Taste, rotting hair, old candle, and sadness. But you swallow, because in this hellhole of a timeline, not dying. Gourmet. You wash it down with the only liquid available, small beer, aka medieval tap water mixed with donkey backwash and 2% liquid regret. You burp. You cry. You live, barely. Evening hits. Clouds fart out rain. You limp back home soaked like a wet goblin. You open your door. Rat. On your shoulder. Straight out the fucking wall like it owns the place. You scream. It squeaks. Another one joins. Then another. Then they're cousins. Suddenly, it's fast and furious rat drift inside your house. One chews your blanket. Another one's dry humping your sock. One jumps into your bed and stares at you like, you pay rent here. You grab a sandal and go full berserker. Miss. Miss again. They dodge like they've trained in fucking ninja school. One even laughs and does a victory lap. You give up. You collapse on your straw mattress, which is now 30% flea, 70% sorrow. It's leaking. The roof. Your eyes, your dignity, all leaking. Then Shitty Pete pop out from the shadows like your least favorite bedtime story. Day 2, eh? Not dead yet, impressive. You survived starvation, a beheading, suspicious meat, and a rodent gangbang. You're on a roll, peasant. I hand you a cup of something hot. You sniff it. Is it soup? No. It's piss tea, made from boiled water, old socks, and wild herbs that might be poison.
you drink it anyway. It's the closest thing to comfort you'll get this decade. Then I whisper, tomorrow's a wedding. Or maybe a funeral. Or maybe both if the cake's moldy and the groom drinks from the plague well again. You curl up like a soggy dog. Rain leaks on your head. A bedbug climbs into your ear. You consider biting yourself just to taste something familiar. And as the rats start humping again in the corner, you close your eyes to sleep, if the rickets don't kill you first. Day 3. The milk. The maggots and the midwife's curse. Morning slapped me in the face like a wet cabbage. I woke up with a crusty blanket, a flea bite on my butt, and the distant sound of someone vomiting into a bucket. Lovely. Breakfast time. Now you'd think food would cheer a peasant up. Nope. I opened the cupboard. Okay, it's actually a wooden box we nailed shut with a dead rat once. And inside was our family cheese wheel. Except now it's less cheese and more blue screaming fungus covered in worms, like the maggots had set up a small democracy in there. I poked it, and one of them waved at me. I still ate it, of course. That's protein in it. Medieval folks didn't have fridges, so expiration date was just a polite suggestion. If it didn't bite back, it's dinner. Anyway, while I was chewing my maggot toast combo, my cousin burst in yelling, "Pete! Pete!" The cow's milk has turned to slime, so we all ran outside. Turns out the cow wasn't sick. We'd just been milking the wrong end of the cow. Again. Classic Jeffrey. While we were arguing about udders versus wieners, she showed up. Gertrude, the midwife. Now listen, Gertrude is 84 years old, smells like onion piss, and swears she can cure anything, using herbs, leeches, or chicken pee. She limped over with her 3 teeth and a jug of special tonic that looked suspiciously like bathwater from hell. "Drink this. It'll cleanse your soul," she wheezed. I said, "Last time I drank your tonic, I hallucinated for 3 days and tried to marry a pig." She replied, "And you looked happy. Midwives back then were your doctor, therapist, dentist, and exorcist, all rolled into one. Basically, your village Google. Except worse. Much worse." Speaking of demons, Gertrude said she had to visit Old Man Beavis to cleanse his evil spirits. Apparently, he's been screaming Latin at the chickens and pissing in patterns. So naturally, I followed. She walked in, threw garlic everywhere, shouted something in Latin that sounded like "pickle my armpits," and whacked Beavis with a broom. Beavis screamed. The chickens screamed. I screamed. The demon, still there. But now the house smelled like someone deep-fried a Bible. Cut to 3 hours later, and Gertrude's yelling, "It's in his ass," while Beavis is mooning the Virgin Mary statue. I don't know if the demon left, but I sure did. Back in the village square, people were buzzing about a rumor. The king is coming to our stinking piss-pot village. For what? Tourism, leech therapy, live rat-throwing contests. Suddenly, everyone lost their minds. Marjorie, who hasn't bathed since the last eclipse, screamed, "I need to find my left titty," because apparently it's been lost in her folds since 1327. Someone dug up old ceremonial pants. My uncle started brushing his tooth. And God help us, they brought out the village bath barrel. Now this thing is older than sin. One giant tub. Everyone gets in. Same water. One after the other. Family style. I was 7 the first time I saw my grandma's butt float past me in that soup of sin. I still haven't recovered. I skipped my turn and went straight to the alehouse. There I met Thomas the Sad. He was crying because he used his best tunic to wipe after a spicy turn in the woods. I patted his back. "At least it wasn't your wedding tunic." He sniffled. It was. Then the church bell rang. Everyone froze. We all looked at each other like goats who just saw a wolf wearing a crown. The king was near. Or maybe it was just a tax collector. Equally terrifying. We lined up. We pretended we weren't itchy. We stood next to the pigs to smell better. Gertrude whispered, "Don't look the king in the eye unless you want boils on your nipples." Good advice, honestly. But guess what, false alarm? It wasn't the king. It was just some noble twat's messenger passing through. He looked at us like we were fermented cabbage people, which, to be fair, we kind of are. Everyone groaned and immediately went back to scratching, farting, and yelling. I went back home, stepped in goat shit, and sighed. The sigh of a man who knows tomorrow's stew will contain mystery meat and 0% dignity. As the sun went down, I laid in bed itchy, gassy, and full of unprocessed trauma. A rat crawled over my chest and paused for a moment, like it too had seen things it could never unsee. We nodded at each other in mutual respect. Welcome to day 3 of your new life, my friend. Sleep tight. And remember, if you feel something crawl on you in the night, it's probably not a dream. Day 4. He died shitting. Right. So I woke up this morning scratching my arse and ready to drop my daily brick in the public bog like any decent peasant with bowel pride. I strut over with my piss bucket in hand, whistling some off-key hymn I made up, only to find the entire shithouse empty. Quiet. Eerily quiet. You know it's bad when even the flies seem confused. I peek inside one of the stalls and there he is, bloody Osric the dung collector, stone cold, eyes wide open, still sitting trousers round, ankles, arms limp like old sausages, dead, mid-shit. I ain't gonna lie, I screamed. Not because I was scared, but because the bastard still hadn't wiped. Bloody uncivilized to die like that, leaving your bum exposed to the elements. People start gathering round, gasping like it's the second coming. It's the curse, someone cries. He must have eaten the wrong bread, as if bread suddenly become the Grim Reaper's weapon of choice. Bread. That thing we all eat because we can't afford actual flavor. Fun fact. Back in the day, some bread got so moldy it caused hallucinations. People'd eat it and start dancing naked, speaking in tongues, or trying to marry goats. True story. We called it holy bread. What a laugh. Anyway, some genius from the crowd yells, "We must burn the bakery." And just like that, everyone's running with pitchforks, like it's the sodden Olympics. Meanwhile, Osric's corpse is still sitting there, cheeks out like some tragic monument to explosive diarrhea. And me, I still needed to take a shit. The bread curse and the possessed priest. So after poor Osric died mid-shit, God smear his soul, we all did what any medieval village would do in a crisis, blamed bread and ran around like arseholes. Someone shouted that the baker's rye was possessed by Satan's yeast, and that was enough for the mob to torch half the bakery and beat up the apprentice who had a lazy eye and looked a bit witchy. But it gets better.
Just as we're halfway through accusing the baker's cat of being a familiar spirit, Father Gregory, our beloved slightly drunk priest, starts twitching during midday prayers. At first we thought he was feeling the Holy Spirit. Then he starts screaming, "The bread is in my bones," and flinging communion wafers like shurikens. Man's fully possessed. His robe flies up, reveals he ain't wearing pants, classic Gregory, and he starts break-dancing down the aisle, piss dribbling behind him like a snail trail of damnation. Everyone starts screaming. One lady faints into a candle and sets her own veil on fire. Another guy tries to baptize Gregory with stale soup. Someone grabs a chicken and starts yelling, "Exorcise him with this holy bird." Meanwhile, I'm in the back munching on the same cursed bread, wondering if I'll start hovering next. During the Middle Ages, people sometimes ate rye infected with ergot fungus. It caused convulsions, hallucinations, and mass hysteria. Some historians think this sparked witch hunts. Imagine going on trial, 'cause your sandwich made you see Satan in a sheep. So anyway, Gregory's rolling on the floor, screaming Latin, or maybe just sneezing, and the village declares him officially unclean. The solution, tie him to a pig and hope God sorts it out. And me, I finished the bread. Wasn't bad. Bit chewy. The pig exorcism parade and the vomit prophet from hell. This morning, no rooster crow. Nope. We all woke up to the sounds of Father Gregory screaming bloody murder while pissing himself in front of the church. Man went full cuckoo, like butt-naked baptizing a chicken in the holy water bowl kind of a cuckoo. That chicken now probably has PTSD. So what do the villagers do? Call a doctor. Pray. Fuck no. We tied him to Gertrude's mange-covered pig. You know, the one that smells like fermented toe fungus, and started a holy procession yelling, "Demon, be gone," while splashing sour goat yogurt on his face. Not holy water. We ran out last week. Don't judge. The pig squealed like someone shoved a flute up its ass. Father Gregory yelled, "I am the Lord," and kept trying to kiss a turnip like it owed him money. His balls were out. Kids were traumatized. Old ladies were into it. It was a mess, but it got worse. Halfway through Alfie, the weird kid who smells like spoiled cabbage stew and looks like he's always about to lick a dead rat, he starts projectile vomiting in the street. Like exorcist-level 10-foot spray. Hit my damn sandals. And in the puke, half a frog, a baby tooth, and a feather. Don't ask me how. Then Alfie looks up, his eyes all rolled back, and he screeches, "The plague cometh those who shit in fear shall die." The entire village silent, like the moment before you fart in church. Then suddenly, some lady shrieks, "He's the chosen one." And before you know it, some guy's kissing his vomit-covered foot like it's the holy relic of Saint Armpit. People crying. Someone fainted. One man literally shat himself on the spot, like trousers darkened. They made a mud throne for Alfie, dubbed him Saint Sick Boy, and started offering him stale bread and pickled squirrel meat. Kids asked for blessings. Old folks confessed sins. I just stood there holding a turnip, wondering, why the fuck does this always happen before breakfast? In medieval Europe, people believed seizures, vomiting, or random screaming were signs of divine possession or worse prophecy, especially during plague times. If you twitched too hard, they'd either worship you or burn you alive.
sometimes both. Oh, and Father Gregory. He and the pig ran into the woods, formed their own church apparently. No one's seen them since. Probably doing orgies and inventing new sins. And me, just another morning mate. Just another morning in this absolute shit show of a village. We must bathe. With bread. Midnight. Moon's out. Cows are confused. Everyone in the village is either drunk possessed or naked or all three. Why, because our genius village chief May, his lice multiply, stands on a barrel waving a chicken leg like a sword and yelling, "The plague is coming. We must cleanse our sins. We must bathe in bread." Bread, not holy water, not soap, just bread. Specifically stale rye bread dunked in lukewarm chicken blood soup. Bon appetit, Satan. And guess who's stuck in the middle of this crusty-ass orgy? Me, Shitty Pete, holding a baguette like it's Excalibur and trying not to pass out from the smell. The scene, men, women, even the goats all flopping around a wooden tub like dumplings in a cursed stew. They're slapping loaves on each other's foreheads, chanting things like, "Bless this yeast, soak out the demons. Stop licking me, eh? That's not part of the ritual, Bartholomew." Some bloke starts scrubbing his armpits with a garlic roll like it's soap. Someone else throws a crouton at the moon. A baby eats half a holy bun and throws up into the soup pot. The potion is now complete. I turn to the camera, dead serious. Somewhere, God looked down and said, "Nope, not my circus." And just when I think it can't get worse, Brother Gerald slips butt-naked, lands face first in the bread bath farts and calls it divine revelation. The chief yells, "We are cleansed, no mate. We're wet. We smell like bloody sourdough and chicken ass, and I've got breadcrumbs in places breadcrumbs should never be." Meanwhile, the sky darkens, a wind picks up, and with it, something rank. The plague ain't even here yet, and we already smell like sin dipped in soup. Stay tuned, the rats are coming. The north wind smells like corpse cheese. By sunset, everything's damp. The bread bath did nothing but make the whole village smell like a butcher's armpit. And just when you think, hey, maybe today won't get worse, a strange wind blows in from the north. Not a breeze, not a gust, a hell fart. Smells like a rotting corpse marinated in blue cheese vinegar and someone's granddad's piss bucket. People stop mid-sentence. Even the cows freeze eyes wide. One just lies down, gives up. I sniff. I gag. I cry a little. Then, splat. A rat falls from the ceiling. Not scurries. Not runs. Falls. Like it gave up on life halfway through the rafters and decided to check out. Lands right in the middle of Granny Hilda's turnip stew. Dead. Tongue out. Legs stiff. Just floats there like a tragic meatball. And get this, the stew curdles. Instantly. Not because of heat, but from pure spiritual fear. I turn to the camera like I'm in some cursed cooking show and say, "You ever seen a rat die in front of a turnip stew?" And the stew curdles from fear I have. Everyone screams. Someone throws a shoe at the stew like that's gonna help. Old man Bartholomew tries to eat around the rat. He gets slapped. The wind keeps blowing. The stench is biblical, and the sky turning piss yellow. Coughing, teeth, terror. Just when we think we've reached peak madness, the coughing starts. First, it's little Timmy. He hacks like he's trying to birth a demon. Then 3 more kids. Then the blacksmith's wife. Then the blacksmith. Then the blacksmith's horse sneezes so hard it farts and falls over. And then the teeth. I swear on my last piece of dry bread. Aunt Beatrice, mid-sip of her fermented goat wine, lets out a polite little cough and tink. Her whole row of front teeth just plop right into her goblet. She stares. We stare. The wine bubbles. Someone screams. Another man points to the sky and shouts, "It's the plague. The devil's fart has come for us." We look at him like, yeah, that actually tracks. A boy starts chanting prayers. A woman climbs a tree and screams at the moon. Brother Gerald starts digging his own grave just to get ahead of the curve. And me, Shitty Pete, I stare dead into the camera. I look like I've aged 7 years in 7 seconds. Tomorrow is the day the devil comes to crap on our village. And I, dear friend, will be right there. Front row. Cue thunder. Cue screaming. Cue rat stew still bubbling behind me. To be continued, if we survive the farts of hell. Day 5. The pus healing ceremony and Holy Pee panic. Medieval pus facial. If your face ain't leaking, your soul ain't healing. Some idiot, probably. You ever look at someone's face and think, damn, that's a whole ecosystem of filth, pus, and regret. Well, welcome to my village. Here, clear skin is a sign of demonic possession and oozing sores. That's basically divine moisturizer. Each morning right at cockcrow, literally as our neighbor's rooster screams like it's in a metal band, the whole village gathers by the well for what we proudly call the healing hour. Except it's less healing and more, let's smear bodily goo on each other like it's a spa day hosted by Satan. The puss queue, where beauty begins. We queue up like we're at a bakery, except instead of croissants, it's pustules. The first ones in line, the real MVPs. Not because they're rich or holy, nah, it's 'cause they've got the juiciest boils in the village, that's right. If you've got a fat, ripe, ready-to-pop face volcano, you're basically a walking donation center. People come up to you like, "Hey Jeff, mind if I borrow some of that golden syrup off your neck? Just need a dab for me chin." And Jeff, he's proud. The man pops his zit like he's blessing the crowd with holy oil. DIY pus mask, the OG skincare routine. Now here's the fun part. Everyone has their own damn recipe. Old Martha mixes her nephew's boil juice with ash from the fireplace. Claims it exfoliates. Brother Thomas adds crushed wormwood. Says it opens the pores and closes the gates of hell. My cousin Dave. He's a simple man. Just pure, warm forehead pus, slathered straight onto the cheeks like war paint. And there I was, trying not to gag, watching a grown man spread yellow goo on his temples while humming hymns. He turns to me, all proud and glistening, and goes, "This here's me spiritual armor, Pete. Ain't no devil breaking through this crust." The smell. Oh, Lord. Imagine wet cheese that died in a chimney. Mix that with horse sweat, expired onions, and a hint of regret. That's what the square smells like every morning. Even the flies left. I swear to God, I saw a fly sniff the air, then fly back into the fire. But no one cares. People are rubbing pus into their elbows, their scalps even under the toenails. One lad poured some down his trousers, said it would bless the loins. He's single, obviously. Does your face look too clean? Are demons targeting your soul? Try Boil Balm TM. Now with extra infected lymph side effects, include screaming itching and divorce. Pete's recap. Live from hell. Now, I'm not saying it didn't work. Some folks did look better. Well, more alive than usual. But I'm also not saying it did work, because one time a kid rubbed some pus into his armpits and woke up with a third nipple. We now worship him as the one who leaks wisdom. A short Q&A with a local spa expert. Q. Why do you rub pus on your face? Auntie A keeps me young. She's 34 but looks 98. Q. Does it sting? A. Only if the boil was from a sinner. Q. How do you know it's from a sinner? A. If it smells like onions and betrayal. And me? Well, I did it once. Had this monster zit on my back from sleeping in the hay with a sick goat. Thought, why not try the village's golden goop? So I asked Big Roger. He's got a forehead that looks like God tried to play whack-a-mole and gave up halfway. He popped one right into a cup. I dabbed it on. And I swear to every saint that ever existed, a squirrel died just from standing downwind of me. So why do we do this? Because when the plague's knocking on your door, and you've got no doctor, no soap, and a neighbor who thinks sneezing is a form of communication, you grab whatever you can, even if that's boil juice from Gary the turnip farmer. You can call it stupid. You can call it gross, but around here it's called Tuesday, and tomorrow we're trying pigeon pea. Stick around. I might be dead by noon. The holy pea. Panic blessed by piss and stupidity. So there I was, still reeking of pus from this morning's face treatment. And by treatment, I mean a peasant spa day where we smear someone else's infected boils on our damn cheeks like it's goat milk from heaven. Lovely. My face felt like it had its own heartbeat. Anyway, I think to meself, that's gotta be the low point of the day. Oh, Pete, you idiot. Next thing I hear is the church bell ringing like the devil himself's tap dancing on the steeple. Dong, dong, dong. A sacred summons. Either another rat died in the holy wine barrel, or Father Gerald's got something stupid planned. Spoiler, it's both. Holy piss miracle of the yellow rain. I drag my pus-crusted feet to the village square, where there's already a crowd forming. And not the normal someone farted near the blacksmith again kind of crowd. This one's buzzing with excitement. Father Gerald stands there, eyes gleaming, like he's just snorted powdered relics. Behind him, a barrel, not of wine, not of water. A barrel of fresh, steaming, human piss. Brothers and sisters, he bellows, the Lord has spoken through my bladder. Me, what in the flaming goat fuck is he on about now? Then he goes on, apparently after fasting, praying and holding his pee for 2 whole days, which honestly might be the most impressive miracle I've seen around here. He received a vision. Holy urine can cleanse the soul, and the skin, and maybe even your gingivitis. No one laughed. Not one bloody soul. In fact, the baker's wife clapped. Then someone yelled, "Give us the juice, Father." I nearly pissed myself, ironically. And then it began the urine ceremony. The piss parade begins. Father Gerald, bless his deranged soul, whipped out his, holy hose right there in front of the village. No shame, no hesitation, just full eye contact and a stream like a mule. Into the barrel. Then he nods solemnly, turns to the crowd and says, "Who among you will bathe in God's mercy?" Apparently, that meant sticking your face in the barrel and coming up reborn in piss. And bloody hell, the line started forming. Young, old, wrinkly, hairy, everyone took a turn dunking their heads in this cauldron of warm communal wee, like it was some kind of baptismal soup. Old Ma Tibby came up with piss dripping from her eyelids and declared, "My cataracts feel blessed." The blacksmith's apprentice snorted some up his nose and said, "Me hay fever's gone." One bloke even drank it, called it a holy cleanse. Me, I just sat there mouth open, stunned, trying to calculate how far society had fallen in just 4 days. By my count, the moment we started exfoliating with pus was bad. But this was rock bottom, covered in piss. The entrepreneurial pee wave. By midday, every half-wit in the village had started their own pee business. One guy bottled his morning stream and sold it as essence of virgin night. He's a 43-year-old goat herder. He's never held a sword in his life. A teenager charged folks to watch him pee into jars, said it made the batch stronger. The rich widow from up the hill bought 6. And then came marketing slogans. Holy pee, better than leeches. Rub it on your warts or die like a Frenchman. Now with bonus, Father Gerald Phlegm. The local drunkard, seeing the trend, offered 2-for-1 piss punches, which was just old ale with a splash of his own brew. He called it the liquid sermon. Even I started thinking, maybe I should bottle mine. Pete's golden glory now, with extra bitterness. But I remembered my bladders more sour than holy, and gave up the dream. When things got worse, so you'd think that's bad enough, right? Nope, because here comes Ethel, that creepy midwife who says she can speak to sheep in dreams. She brings a bucket filled with her own special concoction, half goat milk, half piss, 1 dead spider. Says it cures heartbreak, back pain, and bad decisions. A woman drank it, gagged, puked into the bucket, and then 2 others drank it after her, thinking it was now fermented healing potion. And look, I'm not saying I'm the smartest lad around, but when people start calling vomit piss blessed broth, something's gone off the rails. Pete tries to intervene. I tried telling him, I really did. I stood on a barrel, shouted over the crowd, "Oi, this is madness. You're all out here gargling piss while smelling like roasted pigeon turds." "How is this holy?" Someone shouted back. "Don't question the Lord's liquid." Another tossed a damp cloth at me, yelled, "Blasphemer." "May you be denied the stream of grace." They booed me. They booed me, Pete. The only one not covered in bodily fluids. So I gave up, went behind the outhouse and started digging a hole. Not to escape, just somewhere quiet to cry. Scientific fact, break. All right, in case you think I'm making this up. Yes, in actual medieval times, urine was used as medicine. Doctors and priests believed it had cleansing and disinfecting properties. It was used to clean wounds, Whiten teeth. Yep, they gargled it. Treat acne and infections. And sometimes even as mouthwash. Men's pee was considered stronger than women's because sexism, obviously, and pee from a pure soul like a priest or a child was believed to have extra healing powers. People collected it in jars, stored it, and applied it like a magic potion. So yeah, holy pee is historically real. You're welcome for the trauma. By sundown, the entire village smelled like a pissy pigsty. The sun hit everyone's dried, piss-covered faces just right. And for a moment, it looked like we were glowing. Glowing yellow. With desperation and dehydration. Father Gerald gave one last speech raising a goblet of the golden stuff and saying, "May we be cleansed, renewed, and forever moist with the Lord's essence." I vomited into my own mouth. Then a chicken ran across the square, slipped in a puddle of holy pee, and knocked over the piss barrel. Everyone screamed. They screamed like it was the second coming of Satan. And you know what I did? I laughed. I laughed until I pissed meself, and then cried, and then laughed again, because I realized this is only day 5. Holy Pee from Father Gerald. Alternate title. When your skincare routine includes a priest's piss. Right, so picture this. It's another damp, disease-filled morning in the village. I crawl out of my hay pile with a rat in my sleeve and half a beetle in my mouth. And what do I see? A bloody queue, a long-ass queue. Not for bread, not for beer, but for piss. Priestly piss. I, Father Gerald, the same bloke who once preached against farting during hymns, is now pissing into a wooden tub like it's the fountain of eternal youth, and the villagers lining up like it's Black Friday. Get your holy pee, someone yells. Freshly squeezed from God's own hose. No joke. It was like some unholy smoothie bar. People dipping cups in gargling, washing their crusty feet, and brace yourself gently patting it onto their face like it's bloody rose water. Yes, this actually happened. In medieval times, human urine was used as a disinfectant, a skin treatment, and even a mouthwash, especially if it came from a healthy, blessed man. Some monks believed that urine had divine healing properties and people used it to treat wounds, acne, toothaches, and yes, body odor. So here comes Maud, the village baker's wife. She's rubbing Father Gerald's golden gift on her forehead, whispering, "This'll keep the plague away and make me glow. Glow, woman, you smell like asparagus soup and sin." Then old Bertram waddles over, sloshing his tin mug of holy brew like he's toasting at a wedding. "I've been rinsing me mouth with this every mornin'. No more toothworms, mate. Your teeth look like mossy gravestones, but sure, let's say it's working. And oh, let's not forget, the devout ones, the truly, blessedly bonkers. A few of them skipped the cup entirely. They just kneeled, tilted their heads back, and waited, like birds begging for a worm. One woman screamed, "I want it direct from the tap. The Lord will guide his aim." I'm not making this up. I saw it with my own plague-weary eyes. Father Gerald, red-faced, muttering psalms while trying to arc his piss like he's watering holy daisies. You ever seen 6 people fight over the last drop of hot priest piss? I have. And I wish I hadn't. Welcome to the golden age, literally. And of course, like any booming business, the Holy Pete Me brand had its own traveling salesman.
Some twat with a cart full of empty jugs starts yelling, "Buy now. Bless, later Holy P, new Formula 2. Drops free with every buttocks anointing." I swear to goat, someone asked if they could bathe their baby in it. Said it'd keep evil spirits away and make the child's hair shiny like saint's wool. Lady, your baby's got cradle cap and smells like cheese. This ain't L'Oreal. Urine was also used to whiten teeth and clean laundry. They called it lant, and it was considered valuable. In fact, ancient Romans collected pee in jars on street corners and taxed it. That's right. There was, literally, a pee tax. Anyway, I tried to stay out of it, really. But then my mate Tom comes running up, waving a flask, Pete. Try this. I mixed Father Gerald's pee with nettle root and goose fat. It cured my boils and gave me dreams of angels. Dreams of angels. Tom, you slept in a pig trough and ate moldy barley. You're not seeing angels, you're hallucinating. Now, let me be fair. Not everyone was buying into this golden gospel. Old Widow Agnes, for example, stood by her door holding a cross made from burnt spoons and muttering, "It's all piss and madness." Next thing you know, they'll be shoving frog guts up their bum for a sore throat. That actually will happen. Tune in tomorrow. By mid-afternoon, the village smelled like fermented cabbage and public urinal. Even the goats were avoiding us. A poor lad slipped in a puddle of blessed fluid outside the chapel and screamed, "I've been anointed." His mum clapped like he won a race. Another man claimed his hemorrhoids sang hymns after a full-body piss cleanse. He's now considered a minor saint in 3 hamlets. Remember when we thought washing with soap was sinful? Now we're exfoliating with piss like it's bloody unicorn nectar. At this point, if someone told us to bathe in goat sweat for luck, we'd ask for double portions. End of day. Peaport. 27 people washed their face with holy pee. 13 drank it and said it tasted spiritual. 5 passed out from the fumes. One guy tried to sell it as beard oil. He has no beard. Me, I just watched, judging, silently, while standing in puddles of other people's salvation juice. And I used to think ale was the worst thing I've put on my face. The chill in the wind, rumors of death coming. Let me tell you something. You know when you fart, and it's cold, and it lingers. That was the vibe in our village this morning. Something felt off, like a ghost had sneezed on our turnip fields. Then came him, a strange fella limping in from the next village over, pale as goat's milk, lips bluer than the blacksmith's balls in December. Dude looked like he already met death and just forgot to stay dead. He staggered into the square, made a few glub blub noises like a dying pig, then face planted right next to the cabbage cart. Dead, boom, gone, just like that. Did we panic? Call the priest? Dig a hole? Hey, sweet innocent child, you must be new here. Old Marge shouted. He came from the next village. They've got at the rotting cough. We all gasped. Not because someone died, no, that's Tuesday, but because rotting cough sounded fancier than the usual belly demons or cursed wind. Then, and this is where it gets properly medieval, people lined up to rub his blood on their faces, like it was some holy acne cream from Jesus's own arse. If he died from it,
Then his blood must know how to fight it, one genius said while finger-painting a crucifix of corpse juice on his forehead. I swear on my last loaf of rat bread they were dipping their fingers in his neck juice like it was olive oil at a posh wedding. Kids were poking his mouth, whispering, "Oi, you got plague breath." One lad even tried to take the dead bloke's boots. He won't need 'em. He said, true, but still rude. And me, I just stood there thinking, if death smells like boiled onions and sad farts, this must be it. The great doubt. Pete questions everything. So I walk home, covered in other people's spit. Don't ask, got a crusty toe from yesterday's toe leeches again. Don't ask, and I pass the church. There's Father Gerald, still handing out holy pee like it's beer at a barn dance. Next to him, a queue of villagers rubbing corpse blood on their gums. Behind them, a bloke with a dead pigeon tied to a stick, swinging it around, yelling, "This is the cure, the pigeon knows." And I just stood there, soaked in drizzle, bits of pox scabs stuck to my sleeve, cow fart drifting in from the barn. I took a deep breath and thought, is this life? Is this what we've become? One woman smeared pigeon poo on her chest and said, "It keeps the spirits out." Another claimed burying onions under her husband's bed made him stop coughing. He died, by the way. But she said he died peacefully, stinking of onion. And don't even get me started on Margaret the midwife. She now sells tiny jars of goat burps to cleanse the soul. Mate. I looked around and saw piss potions, blood facials, leech smoothies, dead frogs as amulets, and a man trying to sneeze into a bag to trap the demons. And I cracked, looked straight at you. Are you watching this? Like it's a comedy show. And I said, tomorrow, someone's gonna suggest stuffing frog guts up their arse to cure a cough. And honestly, I might try it. We've come that far, like, what's dignity anymore? What's medicine? What's the point of socks if you have to wash them in sheep pee? In 14th century Europe, people genuinely believed that bad smells caused disease, so they sniffed flowers, stuffed herbs up their nose, or carried dried turds in pouches to cancel out the plague breath. Blood from the dead. Some thought it carried the death spirit and could fight it like vaccines. The problem was, they never invented syringes. So it was just smearing and licking. Pigeon poop was mixed with vinegar to make plague balm. One popular method to avoid sickness: shove a live chicken up your sleeve. The bird would absorb the illness. The chicken did not consent. You ever look around and realize everyone's mad except you, and then you remember you just bathed in cabbage soup and gargled with Father Gerald's sacred piss? Yeah, that's where I'm at. See you tomorrow. If I'm not dead, or worse, covered in frog guts. Day 6, the day of boils. Burnings and bullsh. The cold whisper. A disease is coming from the next village. I woke up this morning with a chicken sitting on my face, and the distinct feeling that today was going to be full of piss. Not metaphorically, I mean literal piss. It was dripping from the hayloft again. Probably Tom's idiot son doing his sunrise blessings. That boy's more urine than brain. Anyway, as I'm wiping bird shea off my forehead and contemplating mortality, I hear the sound, screaming, the kind of high-pitched holy I'm dying scream, echoing across the village like someone just found out bread isn't coming back this season. I shuffle over, still half covered in feathers and shame, and there's poor Joffrey's shirt, half off, arm raised, like he's trying to summon lightning, shouting at his own armpit. Turns out he's grown a boil, a right nasty one, big as a goat's testicle, purple as Satan's plum, and apparently pulsing. And that, dear friends, is how it begins. No one says plague yet. Oh no, we don't like using big words around here. Makes our brains itchy. We say things like the warm cough or that funny rash or the curse of the hairy nun. You know, just to keep things casual, while half the village rots like overripe cheese. But we all know, especially after last night. Because last night a traveler from the next village stumbled into town looking like he'd been deep-throated by death himself. Pale, twitching, bleeding out the eyes, nose, ears, and just for flair, a little dribble of black goo from his arse. He collapsed near the well, which naturally is where we all get our drinking water from because we're geniuses. And what did the villagers do? They poked him with a stick, then argued about whether he was possessed, cursed, or just French. One woman tried to snog him in case he's holy. Another lad rubbed his own sores on the corpse for good luck. Little Timmy licked the blood. For fun. And I just stood there whispering, well, we're fucked. Let me tell you something, mate. I've seen literal rivers of it. Once saw a man drown in pig piss. But nothing, and I mean nothing, fills my soul with more dread than the cold wind that blew through the village this morning. Because it wasn't just cold, it was off. It smelled like wet stone, old meat, and regret. Like the kind of breeze that whispers, "Hey buddy, want a free trial of death?" That's how plague announces itself, not with fireworks. With a fart on the breeze and a dying bloke bleeding on your best turnip patch. I remember the last one. One village over, a happy little place full of goat huggers and carrot worshippers. Went completely black in 5 days. Started with a farmer's wife getting a fever. Then her tits swelled up like demonic balloons. Then she sneezed her liver out. True story. By the time someone yelled, "Maybe we should do something," half the village was dead and the other half was on fire. Probably unrelated. And now it's here. Not the fire, the death. That slow, creeping, arse-tingling sense that your neighbor's cough might be the last sound you ever hear. But do we leave? Do we pack our eshat, grab the children, and run for the hills? Nope. We put onions in our socks and start praying to St. Gerald's left toe. And don't get me wrong, I love this village, really. I was born here, raised here, lost my virginity in the grain silo to a very enthusiastic scarecrow long story. But we're all idiots. Some believe garlic on your nipples wards off disease. Others swear by drinking sun-kissed morning piss. One bloke taped a dead rat to his chest as a protective charm. He's dead now, possibly from the rat. Possibly from stupidity. Meanwhile, our blacksmith is selling bottled sweat, his own, labeled Holy Moist. I caught a guy bathing in it behind the stables. His skin's glowing now. Not in a good way. And don't get me started on the frogs. We've run out of frogs. People keep eating them raw, convinced they absorb the evil. Newsflash, they absorb nothing except your dignity. And yet, life goes on. Children are still stealing bread. The town crier is still crying, but now it's mostly blood.
And old Martha is still convinced she's 23 and immortal. But beneath the fart, jokes, and goat drama, there's something simmering. A fear, a pressure, like the village is a big sweaty armpit and the boil's just about to pop. Me, I've got a plan. I've prepped. I've got a mask made of cabbage. 1 bottle of suspicious wine may or may not be embalming fluid. A wooden spoon I named Plague Slayer. A small bag of teeth, don't ask. And a note that says, "Told you so, you crusty bastards," to pin on my corpse. Because, let's be honest, we're not surviving this through prayer. We're surviving this by not licking dead people and maybe not being complete toots. So if you're hearing this now from your filthy straw mattress, scratching your crotch and wondering why your pee smells like sadness, take this as your warning. The cold whisper is real. The next village is already halfway to Ghost Town. And your neighbor, the one coughing into his stew pot. Yeah, you should move. Grab your chickens, your granny, your weird cousin with the wooden leg, and run. Or don't. Stay. Rub a toad on your forehead and see what happens. Me, I'll be in my shack screaming at the sky and drinking vinegar. Because I'm Shitty Pete. And I've survived worse. 4 people got arrested because they didn't have boils. Now listen, I know this plague's turning brains into porridge. But what happened this afternoon made me question if any of us ever had brains to begin with. I'm talking about the great purge of the clean ones. Sounds fancy, innit? But really, it's just 4 poor sods getting dragged off, 'cause they looked too healthy. See, when half the village is walking around with buboes the size of goose eggs oozing mystery jelly, you'd think folks would be jealous of anyone still looking human. But nah, not here. In our blessed dung hole of a village, being healthy makes you suspicious. That's right. If you ain't boiling like the rest of us, clearly, you've signed a blood contract with Beelzebub and spent your Tuesday riding his forked tail through the moonlight. It started with old Granny Elsbeth. She's 83, got 1 tooth, and still makes soap from pig fat and thyme, which I'll admit smells nicer than most of our armpits combined. But that's exactly why people turned on her. "Why don't she stink like the rest of us?" some bloke yelled near the well. "She's hiding something." Poor Elsbeth just blinked, muttered something about her joints, and went back to stirring her cauldron. That was enough. Boom. Witch. The verdict took 4 seconds and a drunken handshake. Apparently, anyone who knows how to clean something is either a wizard or shagging Lucifer. Or both. Then came poor Jorik, 16 years old. Bit odd, always scribbling on parchment. Draws weird shapes, writes poems. Once tried to make a sundial out of goat bones. People called him Devil's Left Hand. Why? 'Cause he's literate. Yeah, literate. The crime-owning letters. Real serious stuff. He got dragged to the square and lashed to a pole next to Elspeth while still clutching his notebook. You'd think they were burning ancient scrolls from the Vatican. I watched the whole thing from behind the fish stall, bubo under my arm throbbing like a cursed drum. I thought, this can't get worse. Then they brought out the sausages. Yep, sausages. Some genius said, if we're gonna roast sinners, might as well roast meat. And just like that, it became a bloody festival. Folks brought ale bread a bloody loot. Benedict the baker even juggled apples while someone fanned the flames. I shit you not, they were cheering, like this was a village holiday and not 2 actual human beings about to be flambéed. I tried to speak up. I really did.
I said, "Oi, maybe we don't torch the old lady who's just trying to make us smell less like rotting piss." But someone threw a leak at me and called me rat kisser. Which fair. A rat did lick my boobo this morning. But that's beside the point. Then they grabbed Marta and Wulfric, two lovers from the edge of the woods. Real private types. Always pickin' herbs, talkin' to birds, never complained about anything. Suspicious? As hell, obviously. "Why don't they scream when they shit like the rest of us?" someone yelled. Boom. Witchcraft. Marta got accused of seducing a demon in the form of a squirrel. Wulfric got accused of not farting during prayer. Straight to the pole they went. At this point, we had 4 people tied up a crowd singing off-key psalms, and somebody passing around mustard like it was a damn barbecue. I wanted to cry or laugh or puke, maybe all 3. They lit the pyre just after sunset. Flames danced, wood cracked, and for a moment everyone shut up. It was quiet. Like, even the dumbest among us realized, oh, this ain't sausages. This is people. But then someone shouted, "More beer," and the spell broke. The screams blended into cheers. And I stood there, smelling burning soap and parchment, thinking, maybe the plague ain't the worst thing here. Maybe it's us. Did you know in actual medieval Europe, people were literally burned for being too clean? During outbreaks, especially the Black Death, those who didn't get sick were often accused of witchcraft heresy or consorting with demons. Literacy was also seen as suspicious. Only clergy and nobles were allowed to read, so commoners who could write were often seen as corrupted. Burning witches became public entertainment in many towns, especially when paired with food and drink. Yup, witch roast plus ale equals your average Tuesday in 1350 back to the square after the smoke cleared. Everyone stumbled home drunk and soot-stained. And not a single person seemed bothered. Not one. Like justice had been served with a side of pork links. No one asked why these 4 didn't have boils. No one questioned maybe they'd just been lucky, or careful, or smart. Nah, they were different. That was enough. And me, I limped home, pus leaking down my ribs, holding a half-burnt sausage someone dropped. Tasted like shit. Probably cursed. But I kept eating. Because in this plague-ridden piss-pot of a world, food is food. And tomorrow, maybe I'll be the one tied to the pole for not having the right kind of bubo. Or for writing this story down. If you're hearing this and you're still alive, don't trust a crowd with torches. Especially if they're bringing snacks. The cow's arse miracle. Now listen here, you poor newly awakened medieval souls. You might think you've seen some bollocks in this village already between the bath soup orgies, rat soup Tuesdays. And that time Father Gerald sold us holy pea, but today takes the cake squats on it and farts in your dinner. It started just after the dead guy bled all over the village square yesterday. Remember him? The purple-faced wanderer who collapsed while babbling in the tongues of the damned. Yeah, well, turns out that wasn't the grand finale. That was just the fucking prelude to today's masterpiece of human idiocy. The great cow arse exorcism. Let me paint the scene. Early morning. Sun's barely up. Smells like rotting cabbage and fermented goat again. Everyone's coughing, oozing, limping, and scratching parts of their bodies they didn't know could itch. Then, like an omen from Satan himself, in walks this tall, bald bastard draped in ragged robes and cow bones. He calls himself Master Gregory the Healer, but I call him Gregory the Gasbag. He claps his hands like some holy man and announces, "The illness is not in your blood, it's in your soul. And to release it, you must blow it out through the holy portal of the cow." The villagers stared at him, then at each other, then at the cows. And like the hopeless sheep, we are not one bastard questioned it. You ever seen 30 grown men line up to fart their breath into the backside of a heifer? Because I have. That's now my life. That image is burned into my peasant brain forever. There was Old Man Tom, bent double like a yogi, with arthritis puckered up like he was kissing his long-lost wife, trying to exhale his plague soul into poor Daisy the cow. It wasn't just a blow-and-go either. Gregory had rules. You must take 3 deep breaths. You must chant, "Begone foul humors" in Latin, even if you don't know Latin. You must cup the cow's bum with love and sincerity, or it wouldn't work. What in the name of boiled sheep tits? Little Meg, our town's baker, went first. She took it so seriously I almost believed she was passing a ghost out her lungs. She got real close, too close. The cow let out a fart mid-ritual that sent Meg stumbling backwards, like she'd seen God's hairy arsehole. Everyone clapped. It was like a religious moment. One man wept. Then came Joffrey the Smith's apprentice. Poor sod had barely leaned in when the cow kicked him square in the jaw. Teeth went flying. Someone yelled, "The demon fights back." Gregory nodded solemnly. A sign the sickness was strong in him, he said. Joffrey lay there, unconscious, foaming at the mouth, and people applauded his bravery like he'd taken a sword for the village. It got worse. Next, Big Bertha, the one who churns butter with her elbows, decided to go extra holy. She inhaled like she was about to sing in the king's choir, then blew with such passion that I swear she got suctioned halfway up that cow's rear. I had to yank her back by the waist. She looked reborn, like she'd just peered into the abyss of life and mooed back. Gregory was elated. He declared, "The cow is now your savior. Let it receive your breath, and you shall be cleansed." At this point, even the cows looked confused. Daisy refused to participate after the third blow. She just laid down and stared into the distance like a war veteran. The rest were tied down to prevent more hoof-related casualties. And yet the line of hopeful bum blowers kept growing. Now, here's the kicker. While they were all lining up to snog cow arseholes, I sneaked off to Gregory's wagon. What did I find? A stack of used plague talismans, rat bones tied to string jars of blessed leech oil, and get this, a fucking pipe used for blowing smoke up people's arses. Literal smoke. This wasn't just some homegrown bullshit ritual. Turns out they actually used to revive drowned folks by blowing tobacco smoke into their rectum. Real thing. Called a tobacco enema. 1700s, mostly, but hey, logic's been dead longer than half this village. And here we are a few centuries early, improvising the same idiocy with livestock. The Middle Ages were just proto-YouTube challenges. I came back to the square holding Gregory's smoke pipe like a trophy. I told everyone, he was gonna set fire to your ring piece next. But no one listened. They were too busy debating if goat bums were more spiritually absorbent than cow ones. One lad shouted, "The cow's soul is tired. We must try the donkey." And someone else actually whispered, "What if we blow into each other's bums?" Share the health I left. I left before the human centipede got canonized as a holy rite. Let me tell you something, dear listener. When you live in a village where people are willing to French kiss livestock in the name of medical progress, you start doubting the whole of human history. Logic is dead. Science is a fart in the wind. And our immune system is powered by dreams and dung. I sat on a rock watching them chant and huff and blow. And I thought, maybe tomorrow someone'll suggest rubbing frog guts on their chest or sleeping inside a pig to sweat out the demons. And you know what, I might just try it. Because at this point, why the fuck not? We've already blown our souls into a cow's arsehole. That's day 6, lads. Sleep tight. Don't catch the moo demon. The final drop. Corpse in the well. Now let me tell you about the fucking well. See, by this point in the plague, half the villages either dead, twitching, or busy blowing into a cow's arse. And the well, our one and only source of fresh water, had started smelling like a dead badger's crotch in July. Sweet and sour. Kinda meaty. But no one dared question it. Not till I went down for a drink and saw it float in a goddamn hand. Just bobbing there. Pale and wrinkled. Waving at me like, "Hey Pete, fancy a sip of my death soup?" Turns out the elders, those wrinkly sacks of superstition, thought it'd be a great idea to toss plague corpses in the well. Said it would return their sickness to the earth. I told him, "Mate, it's returning it to me fucking stomach." But no one listened. One of them, Toothless Garrett, even took a gulp and went, "Tastes better than cabbage water." "Yeah, mate, 'cause it's seasoned with Judith's decomposing kidneys. I swear on my last remaining toenail, they treated it like holy broth. Called it blessed water of the beyond, like we were baptizing our intestines with plague juice. There was this one bloke, little Pip, only had one eye and half a foot, who gulped down 2 whole mugs of the corpse water and declared, "I feel stronger already." 5 minutes later, he shat himself unconscious. I, of course, refused. Said I'd rather lick the inside of a pig's armpit than drink Judith's stew. But water's water, and when it's 40 degrees, you're sweaty, crusty, and haven't pissed in 3 days, you start looking at that corpse tea and thinking, maybe just a sip. I held my nose. I dipped my mug. I stared down at that bloated hand like it was judging me from the beyond, and I drank 2 gulps. And I immediately retched onto my own feet. Threw up yesterday's onion porridge, then slipped in it. People in medieval Europe actually threw plague victims into wells thinking it would cleanse the land. It often poisoned the water supply, spreading disease faster. Also, bodies were considered holy after death, especially if they died during plague, as it was believed to be a sacred death. And you wonder why we didn't invent toothpaste till 500 years later. So yeah, that's how our water turned into bone broth. And nobody fucking cared. The rat and me, Pete's final friend. That night I sat in my hut alone. It was quiet, too quiet. No screaming, no chanting, no mooing cows with sore arseholes. Just the soft, wet chewing of a rat licking the pus from under my left armpit. And honestly, that little bastard was the most comfort I'd had all week. I'd named him Clive. He had one ear a limp and the dead eyes of someone who'd seen a priest fart into a chimney. But Clive, he never judged me. He didn't care that I stank like fermented sheep, or that I hadn't changed my shirt since the king still had all his sons. He just sat there, licking, gently, like a lover. We locked eyes. I whispered, "You're the only one who gets it, Clive." And he just blinked. Like, "Yeah, mate. I saw you drink that corpse water. Bold move. I ain't got many friends left. Bertha's gone. Alfie exploded from both ends last night. Even Father Gerald stopped pissing holy wine and started pissing blood. It's just me. And Clive. And honestly, I think I trust that rat more than I trust any goddamn human in this village. Humans lied. Humans burned clean people for not having pimples. Humans shoved cows full of air and called it medicine. Humans pissed in corners and drank out of wells filled with dead grannies. But Clive just licked and listened. I fed him a hemdivan and a crumb of hard bread. He sniffed it, rejected it, then ate a scab off my thigh instead. That's real love. I looked him deep in the eye and said, "If I die tomorrow, Clive, the shoes are yours. You've earned them." In the Middle Ages, rats were often seen as pests, but in some regions, people believed they were spirit animals of survival. They thrived during plague while humans died. Some peasants even started treating them like omens or companions, believing they had wisdom in their tiny, twitchy noses. So yeah, I ended the day sitting shirtless, bleeding slightly, whispering secrets to a plague rat. And honestly, that was the most sane part of my whole fucking week. Blowing smoke into a corpse's arse. Yes, real early resuscitation technique. Tobacco enemas were believed to revive drowned victims by stimulating internal warmth. Common in 18th century and hilariously useless. Medicine with poop, vomit, and urine. Yes, these were actual prescriptions. Medieval doctors believed diseases needed to be balanced out by equally disgusting substances. Sometimes a person would be given wine with goat dung to purge the evil humors. Lovely. Burning sick people with food offerings. In parts of rural Europe, people burned diseased individuals alongside food or animals, believing it would feed the spirits and carry the soul safely. Think of it as Deliveroo for the afterlife. The Mental Breakdown special sponsored by Delusion and Cowshit. If you still breathing on day 7, congrats. You're officially batshit. Shitty Pete philosopher, peasant, and certified rat whisperer. If my still breathing by now, then either the devil's busy or God's forgot where my live. They say if you survive the plague, the rats, the ghost, piss in the well, and the ceremonial cowbutt blowing without losing your marbles, then you're the mad one. Or a witch, or both. So yeah, congrats to me. I'm now a suspect. Day 7 ain't about boils or coughing up blood anymore. That was for amateurs. This is where the brain melts, where folks start whispering to bread loaves and kissing tree bark. This is hallucination season, baby. Buckle up. The head that talks back. It all began this morning when I stubbed my toe on a skull. Not a metaphor. A literal dirt-covered skull rolled out from under a collapsed grave like "Oi, Pete, got a minute?" I blinked, rubbed me eyes. The skull blinked back, which it shouldn't have done, by the way. It started talking. Not with a mouth, it didn't have lips, thank Christ. But I heard it. In my mind. You ever wonder why you're still alive, Pete? Maybe you're the disease? I told it to piss off and kicked it into the bushes. But I swear it winked. Swear on me last tooth.
Medieval folks used actual decapitated heads as spiritual advisors. They thought severed heads could retain knowledge. Some would even sleep with skulls under their beds to absorb wisdom. Modern diagnosis: probably schizophrenia. Back then, just Tuesday. The miracle of shitbread. Went to the village square hungry as hell, smelled something bacon, thought, oh sweet Christ, bread. Nope. Turns out old Agnes, bless her dementia, had been hallucinating so hard she made holy bread using what she thought was flour. It weren't flour, it was dried cow dung. The worst part, people still lined up to eat it. She told 'em God gave her the recipe in a dream. Said ye gotta eat it to purify the soul. Some bastard even said, bit nutty, but I've had worse at the tavern. I dry heaved so hard me spleen nearly shot out. No joke, people have made holy bread with the weirdest shit. In certain regions, fermented dung or ashes were used as purification rituals. One case in Germany. They used dog poo in blessing powder to ward off demons. Because what better way to stay clean than to rub dog crap on your windowsill? The mongoose who spoke Latin, okay. Now I swear I saw this. A mongoose. Don't ask why there's a mongoose in an English village. Just roll with it. Ran across the chapel roof, looked me dead in the eye and shouted, Ecce homo! Behold the man, either I'm losing it or the rodents are going bilingual. I asked the village priest and he just nodded solemnly and said, that's St. Geoffrey. He speaks when he's hungry. Feed him beans. So we did. A dozen of us spent 20 minutes tossing beans at a mongoose. One lad swears he heard him sing the Lord's Prayer. I have no comment. Only questions. Midsummer's Night. Cackle Fest. That night, everyone lost it. I'm talking half the village stripping naked, dancing round a dead cow, chanting "Bless the milk," while slapping themselves with leeks. Someone brought out a bucket of frogs and started baptizing them. These be the chosen ones. He screamed, eyes crossed, like a pigeon. A kid pissed in a pot and offered it to the moon. Even me. I joined the chant. I don't remember why. Maybe the leaks made sense at the time. Mass psychosis is real. During plagues and famines, entire villages were recorded falling into fits of hysteria, dancing till collapse, seeing visions licking rocks for divine salt. One famous case in 1518, Strasbourg. Dozens danced to death for those no music. Just pure brain rot. The dream of flying shit. Middle of the night. Cold. Quiet. Peaceful wrong. I wake up outside covered in goose feathers, holding a sausage like a wand, and stand-kneeing on top of a dead pig. Apparently, I'd sleepwalked. The neighbors said I kept shouting, "The sky needs seasoning." No clue what it means. One guy reckons I was trying to summon wind to blow the plague away. Another thinks I was sleep-cooking a witch. All I know is I stubbed my toe again. Not on a skull, this time on a turd. I bit it. Thought it was bread. Immediately wept. The Church of the Rotten Goat. By sunrise, someone had built a shrine to a decomposing goat. They said it smelled like the breath of God. Claimed its maggots formed a divine spiral pointing toward salvation. Folks came to pray to it, rubbed it, kissed its hooves. One guy gave it half a chicken as an offering. When I asked why, he said, "The goat,
told me in my dream. He said he'd eat my sin. The goat, for the record, was very dead. Medieval people absolutely worshipped dead animals, especially when delirious from fever. Some believed a blessed animal corpse could absorb evil spirits. That's not a joke. They'd literally sleep next to rotting carcasses to burn out the plague. The final meltdown. I sat behind the latrine at dusk watching a pigeon eat a beetle. Felt philosophical. There was blood in my piss, pus in my pits, and a rat was licking the wound under my knee like it was fine dining. I didn't stop him. He's clean. Cleaner than the well anyway. I said to him, "You're the only one that ain't lied to me. You show up. You eat, you leave. That's honesty." He blinked. I blinked. We nodded. And I meant it when I whispered, "If I die tomorrow, tell the rat he can have my shoes." He earned it. Day 7 ain't about survival anymore. It's about surrender. Surrendering your dignity, your grip on reality, your clean arsehole. By now, even God's looking down like, "Damn, y'all good down there." No, God, we're not. We're licking walls and arguing with goat skulls. But we're still breathing. Somehow. And if that don't make us the toughest bastards in history, then at least we're the funniest. Some people believed farting loudly expelled evil spirits. They'd literally hold in farts until prayer time, then rip ass as a divine exorcism. Medicinal vomit was a real thing. Doctors encouraged puking twice daily to stay balanced. People rubbed dog fat on their chests to trap the disease. Cats were blamed for the plague. Unless they were cute, then they were considered saints. Day 8, the day logic gave up and moved to another century. My village throws a party while my brain melts out my ears. If you're still alive on day bloody 8, congratulations. You've officially graduated from the medieval school of madness, Timmy, with honors in surviving plague, cow-ass breathing rituals, and not getting eaten by rats in your sleep. You, my friend, are either the chosen one or just too dumb to die. Now, buckle up, because today, the village throws a fucking festival. Yup, a festival. Like music, dancing, jugs of piss-warm ale, and a man in a plague mask doing interpretive dance around a bonfire made from plague corpses. Why? Because the medieval brain works like this. We just buried 12 people yesterday. Let's party, but the water's still full of dead body juice. Party harder. I woke up to the sound of a trumpet. Not from a real musician. No, it was old Gerald, the dying baker, making noises through his fucking nose holes. Man's been half dead for 2 days, and apparently today he decided to contribute to society by huffing out a medieval remix of Ode to a Cough from his sinus cavity. I stumble outside, eyes crusted shut from fever sweat and rat piss, and there it is, the village square, packed with dancing skeletons. And by skeletons, I mean my neighbors who haven't eaten in 4 days and look like a bundle of broomsticks in burlap sacks. There's Bertha, the dung collector, twirling in circles, screaming, "The spirits are leaving my toes." There's Brother Michael, naked, covered in mud, claiming he's become one with the earth. And there's me, just standing there, trying to figure out if I'm hallucinating or if we've all just accepted that life no longer makes sense. In real-ass history, during outbreaks of the plague and mysterious sicknesses, many European towns held literal dancing epidemics. In 1518, Strasbourg saw hundreds of people dance for days, in what historians now call choreomania. Some danced until they dropped dead. Why? Because people believed the illness was caused by evil spirits trapped inside the body, and the only way to shake them out was to boogie until your soul popped free. Modern-day EDM festivals ain't got shit on medieval death raves. Back to our village. At the center of the square, they built a wooden stage. On it, a priest of celebration, which is just Bernard the drunkard in a bedsheet. He's holding a goat skull in one hand and a ladle of spoiled milk in the other, yelling, "Be gone, death demons. We dance you to hell." The smell, imagine puke-burnt hair and sweaty armpits stirred in a cauldron of existential dread. Children are throwing fermented turnips at a man tied to a pole. Not for punishment, for entertainment. There's a dog wearing a crown made of leeches. And I swear to Saint Flatulence, someone's roasting a plague rat on a stick, like it's a kebab. It's not just a party. It's a mass delusion. A brain meltdown in surround sound, and everyone's vibing like it's the end of the fucking world. Because maybe it is, and deep down, everyone knows it. See when you've watched your friends rot in hours, your priest die mid-sermon, and your cow fart blood your brain just gives up. It taps out. So instead of crying, you dance. Instead of mourning, you throw a rave with dead people's clothes on. It's like your mind says, "Fuck it, let's vibe till the rats take me too." And honestly, it kinda works. Because for one night, just one insane, grotty, pox-filled night, nobody's coughing, nobody's sobbing, just flailing, laughing, puking, and shouting things like, "Bless the dancing goat at the moon." Me, I found a stool made of bread, sat down, watched Bertha and the mud-naked monk do a slow waltz next to a corpse pit, and I smiled. Why? Because this right here, this is the most joy anyone's had in 8 fucking days. And if I'm gonna die tomorrow from a coughing rat chewing my nuts off, I'd rather go out with a laugh. The Relic Parade, starring my dead teacher's head. Right. So after the opening act of drunk dancing and coughing blood to the beat of a tambourine, our village decided it was time for the Holy Relic Parade. The problem? We didn't have any holy relics. The closest thing we had to a saint was old Gerald, the drunk shepherd, and even he got arrested once for humping a scarecrow. So what did we do? We dug up my old school teacher. Yup, dug him right the hell up. Father Bernard said, "We need a sign from God." And someone replied, "Well, Mr. Aldrich just died yesterday. He knew Latin. That's pretty close." And that's how I ended up carrying my dead teacher's skull on a stick, leading a parade of plague-ridden villagers through a mud-soaked street, while children sang hymns, and a woman screamed because someone stepped on her goat. They even shoved 2 candles into his eye sockets, said it made him look more divine. Nah, mate, it made him look like he was possessed by Satan and ready to eat a toddler. I looked into those hollow sockets and whispered, "You used to teach me the alphabet, sir. Now you're lighting my way to hell." Oh, and his jaw was still loose. The bastard's teeth were clenched around a rotting bit of cabbage. I swear to the holy pustule, I saw it wriggle when the wind blew. And you know what's mad? The crowd loved it. They were crying and chanting and asking the skull for blessings. A lady next to me kissed the damn thing right on the forehead. I almost threw up my spleen. During the Middle Ages, it was common, and we mean disturbingly common, for people to use human remains as holy relics. Skulls, femurs, even entire mummified bodies were paraded like talismans of divine protection. Sometimes they weren't even saints, just freshly dead folk with a half-decent reputation and an intact rib cage. Some religious orders used infant bones as relics, believing they carried pure grace. Yep, this is why we can't have nice things. Anyway, we paraded Skull Teacher Aldrich down the village past the outhouse, the rat pit, and the donkey orgy corner. Don't ask all the way to the well, which, fun fact, is probably still full of corpse juice from 3 days ago. We stopped there to cleanse the water with the power of Mr. Aldrich's wisdom. Now keep in mind, this man once told me, "You'll never amount to anything, Peter." Now, look at me. I'm marching through Plague Town with his flaming head like some medieval ghost rider. Some kid asked, "Pete, is he watching us from heaven?" Now I told him, "Nah, lad, he's probably in purgatory, trying to explain why he died with a turnip in his pants." At one point, the crowd began chanting, "Guide us, Skull of Aldrich, save us from the black breath." And then some drunk farmer tripped. The skull fell off the stick, rolled through cow shit, and stopped at the feet of the village idiot who tried to bite it. We pretended that was a sign. Father Bernard screamed, "The skull has chosen its host, and now the idiot walks around with it like it's a Bluetooth speaker from God." And you wonder why everyone in this village is either dead dying or delusional. We're 8 days into the plague, and my entire support system is a lit-up cranium, a hallucinating priest, and a well full of E. coli soup. But hey, at least Mr. Aldrich finally got the recognition he deserved. He always wanted to be remembered. Now he's the only teacher in Europe whose eyes are candles and whose mouth still smells like soup. Next up in day 8. The Maypole of Madness. Why are we dancing with a dead goat? Stay tuned. Witch Dunking Derby and the Flying Skull. Flute Parade. My village invented America's Got No Talent. Right? So here's what happened after we paraded the glowing skull of Mr. Gerald, the alphabet teacher, through the village square, like he was the Pope of Rot. Our genius village council, in a grand act of plague-induced wisdom, decided, you know what this party needs? Blood sport, but not any blood sport. No. They went full bananas and started the witch-finding splash-off. Dunk the Betch, a family game night. It starts with some poor woman sneezing twice in a row. That's it, 2 sneezes. And suddenly, someone yells, "Witch," like it's a town hall buzzer. Next thing you know, she's tied up tighter than a monk's sphincter and dragged to the well. We all gathered round because apparently human rights weren't invented yet. Pete's inner monologue. I've seen turnips treated with more compassion than this woman. If she floats, she's a witch. Burn her. If she sinks, oopsie-daisy, she was innocent. Hope the afterlife's chill. Basically, either way, she dies. Fun for the whole family. The judge of this whole charade, an old deaf guy named Beppo, who only communicates in grunts and aggressive nods. The man once bit a chicken out of excitement. Today he's wearing a paper crown that says, "Magical Justice Man." Beppo. Grrr. Woman drowns. Beppo. Grrr. crowd cheers. Yes, this really happened. In medieval Europe, people actually tested women for witchcraft by tying them up and tossing them in rivers. Floating meant they were rejected by the water, equals guilty. Sinking innocent but dead.
Genius, right? Meanwhile, me, Shitty Pete, I'm just standing there holding a moldy pie, wondering, is this my life now? Watching Brenda get waterboarded by superstition while eating sheep. Diarrhea disguised as dessert. The Great Ass Flute Marching Band. After the town had successfully traumatized 3 old women and accidentally set the mayor's wig on fire, it was time for the music. Now you're thinking, oh, some lutes and harps. No, you sweet summer turnip. This is Plague Fest, TM, 1347. We're talking goat intestines turned into bagpipes, sheep bladders inflated like whoopee cushions, and flutes made from actual cow rectums. Yes, you heard me. And guess who got volunteered to join the band? Me, Shitty Bloody Pete. They shoved a hollowed-out bovine sphincter in my hands and went, "Blow it, Pete. For good luck. The spirits demand ass wind. Blow it, mate." The thing smelled like every sin committed in a barn. I swear it was still echoing farts from last winter. But I blew. Oh God, I blew. Sounded like a dying walrus learning to scream. Meanwhile, next to me, some guy in a tattered loincloth was twerking uncontrollably. No music. Just vibes. Then he passed out cold face down in fermented goat piss. And everyone clapped like we just summoned the Virgin Mary. Medieval instruments were often made with whatever was lying around: animal guts, skins, bladders, bones, bagpipes, goat stomachs, drums, sheep skin. Sometimes human bones were used in ritual instruments, especially during plague years when folks really leaned into the God is watching, let's scare him aesthetic. And then came the parade. Imagine this: a line of half-naked villagers, all blowing into tubes made from pig stomachs and ox butts, singing songs about the Virgin Mary, farting out sunshine, while waving flaming chicken legs in the air, and dragging a wheelbarrow full of mysterious bones someone found near the church crypt. We didn't know if it was a procession or an exorcism, and at the front of the line, me, blowing into a fart trumpet, drenched in sweat, thinking I used to dream of becoming a knight. If aliens landed that night and saw our festival, they'd have flown straight back to space and filed a restraining order on humanity. But for us, it was just another glorious, absurd, plague-ridden day of joy. And guess what? We weren't even halfway through the festival yet. Next up, the Feast of the Pig Who Saw the Virgin and the drinking contest with a corpse. Stay tuned, ya filthy sinners. The grand feast, if it doesn't kill ya. It's dinner. So after the candle-eyed skull parade and the fart band finale, it was finally time for the most sacred part of any festival, the feast of fuck it, just eat it. The rule of thumb: if it hasn't screamed in the last hour or grown legs while you're eating it, it's edible. Ancient Pete proverb. Tables lined with half-rotten meat bread greener than the village pond, and a wine that tasted suspiciously like goat pee marinated in sadness. Shitty Pete looked at his plate. Some sort of meat. Could be duck. Could be dog. Could be Dave. The bread was moving. It waved. He waved back.
"Oi, is this bread alive, or just happy to see me?" Old Margaret, you know, the one with the beard thicker than... Father Gerald's theology took a bite of a roast toad on a stick, then screamed it was divine. It winked at me before entering my soul. A child nearby swore he saw an angel doing the worm dance in the air.
Turns out, they all ate ergot-molded rye bread, the medieval version of LSD, but without the cool playlist or safe dosage. Back then, moldy rye bread contaminated by ergot fungus was common. It caused hallucinations, seizures, and even mass hysteria. Entire villages tripped balls because no one knew what a fucking fungus was. Suddenly, everyone was dancing like mad. Not for joy. They were literally tripping. One guy was kissing a tree. Another tried to marry a sheep. Even Pete started hearing Gregorian chants coming out of a goat's ass. He nodded solemnly, then whispered, "That goat speaks truths." Pete floats above his own filthy body. As night fell and stomachs turned, Pete sat by the fire sipping on what could only be described as rat-fermented coconut piss, which was surprisingly smooth. He wasn't alone. Next to him, the skull of Mr. Gregory, his old teacher, still had a bit of parsley stuck between the teeth. Pete toasted, "To you teach. You taught me the alphabet and how to dodge tax collectors." And then it began. The world spun. The stars melted. Pete was no longer Pete. I saw myself floating above, my own dirty, itchy, flea-bitten body. He drifted upward barefoot, naked from the waist down, soaring like a majestic pigeon with diarrhea. Below, he saw the village burning meat, farting instruments, people praying to spoons and rocks. Beside him floated a three-legged cat, wearing a bishop hat. It spoke Latin. The cat said, "Your sins are crusty, Pete, but at least you lived." He flew with the cat through clouds of mushroom-scented air, past a choir of farting angels, until he arrived at a giant floating turnip. And there he saw the truth. We are all just stinky peasants spinning through time trying not to poop ourselves in public. He woke up, face down in the mud, head resting on his teacher's skull, his pants missing, his soul, maybe still airborne. And in 1518 in Strasbourg, people literally danced themselves to death in a mass hysteria event called the Dancing Plague. Some believed eating certain mushrooms or mold opened the gates of the spirit world. Others just puked and died. Singing to corpses was a paid job in some towns. They were called soul singers. Rich folks once kept pet rats near graves, believing the rat's spirit would protect the body from demons. Seriously. As the fires died and the music turned to groans, Pete stood or wobbled and said, "Well, festival's over. I'm alive, not sure about my brain, but at least I danced. And didn't piss meself. I pissed earlier, thank God." He turned to the audience. "Yes, you dirty future being with internet and clean socks. Still wanna be one of us, eh? Still curious what Day 9 has in store? Or have you had enough of plague farts, skull candles, and soup that screams?" He burped. A fly flew out. He smiled. "See you tomorrow, or in the afterlife, whichever comes first." To be continued in Day 9, the last rites of stupidity. Shall we float into madness together, or would you rather swipe left on the 1300s? Day 9,
The funeral parade of the still breathing. If it breathes, it festers. If it festers, we bury it. That's how we roll. Everything could be demonic. The morning after I wake up face first, in a clump of chicken shit arm wrapped around the skull of Father Gerald, the village's deceased teacher. My mouth tastes like frog pubes. I ask the skull, "Did we actually eat a frog last night, man?" No answer. Frog hair stuck between my teeth. But it wasn't half bad if you ignore the bone shards and that gummy crunch warning, you'll lose a molar. The village. It's a zoo. A plague-dazed, fungus-fueled zoo. Old Milda. The widow is crawling around the well moaning. I am the UFO angel. Billy the brat is licking the wall because he thinks it's magical gingerbread. And some drunk moron is furiously arguing with a shovel. When medieval peasants ate ergot, contaminated bread, a fungus that grows on rye, they hallucinated. People believed they were animals, saints, or possessed. Entire villages danced, screamed, or starved themselves to death. One recorded event in 1518 involved a dancing plague in Strasbourg, where dozens died from exhaustion. Pete POV, I'm not hallucinating yet, but my brain. It's bubbling faster than pig stew, and then I fucking see it. A three-legged rat wearing a crown in the pigsty corner. He squeaks at me, "Hail King Pete. You have been chosen. Do you feel the darkness coming?" Then blurts out, "Death is fording the river tonight." I almost shit myself. Twice. Rat prophecy and the blood well. I haul myself to the well, where the villagers dumped yesterday's witches midstream dunking to test innocence. And holy hell, it smells like the ass of a dead horse left to rot by moonlight. Floating by a human hand clutching an onion. And not just any onion, it's still green juicy almost, smug. Next to it, the village seeress dabs rat fat onto her forehead, whispering, "That hand clutching the onion, sign of plague." Just like in 1346, earth cracked open. Medieval superstition tied vegetables to prophecy. In Germany, people worshipped crop deities, believing raiding sacred turnips or onions could reveal fate. Some consulted magical root oracles before important decisions like going to war or choosing a sheep name. So there I stand, straining for answers. Why does that hand still have a wedding ring? Why the old seer slathers rat grease on her brow? And most terrifying, why do I hear laughter coming from the well? The Feed the Dead banquet. Night falls. Villagers gather in the graveyard holding burning torches and moldy rutabagas. They call this ceremony the Feast of the Departed Mouths. Basically, you offer half-rotten bread to spirits as thanks for not dragging us into the river. I stand there with an old man, naked as death, blowing a flute made of rooster bone so squeaky it could wake up a hermit crab. Then someone chants, "If the spirit returns to eat, the body will remain unfettered by demons." I glance at the moldy, fur-dusted loaf in front of me. A hair that's obviously not mine drifts out of it. Most sane folks would puke. But not me, I eat that sucker. Because if I don't, they'll think I'm a witch by default. After swallowing, I hear a deep voice under the soil. "Thanks for the bite, Pete, but I will bring you down with me." I pee myself, but nobody notices. They're all jumping around the grave like cockroaches on speed, yelling, "No one shall die until they've danced." The 1518 dancing plague saw entire crowds seize up dance for days and collapse from heat stroke or heart failure. People believed it was divine curse or mass ergot poisoning. Hospitals were too busy burying bodies to stop the music. Pete outsouls his body. Midnight. I'm huddled in the barn, smoking a rough-dried rat whisker, rat kingy they call it, drinking what looks like fermented well water mixed with sour berries and decomposing fish. Facing me is the skull of the late teacher dressed in my grandmother's shawl. Sounds classy. I mutter, if I die tonight, bury me in the pig pen with this skull. Just don't tell the donkey about what happened. It remembers too much. Medieval folklore often portrayed animals as spirit witnesses. In some English villages, a donkey was brought to court to testify accused of adultery because locals believed it had knowledge of the crime. Animals were surprisingly involved in justice. Then, I blink, eyes swirl. I feel detached. I'm rising above the rotten earth naked from the knees down, hovering on a giant rooster the size of a steed. Below me, villagers jam prayers into farting clay pots, waltzing with skeletons. I'm drifting. I pass over pigsties fields turned to bone shards. I hear the villagers singing a chant that sounds like someone trying to burp the Lord's Prayer. Beside me floats a three-legged cat wearing a cloak speaking Latin in a hissy whisper. Pete, your sins stink worse than plague crust. But you survived. Keep the ash, let the guilt go. Piss wine and one man resurrection. At dawn, I wake face down in mud. Hanging over me is Morris the rat, perched on the skull. I'm alive, somehow. But my mind, it's missing. Probably froze, ran away with the unicorn. The skull is gone. In its place, a crude message carved in manure. Pete, you've been chosen. We meet in hell. Bring your dirty loot, which is either a curse or a death invitation. Sitting outside the pigsty, sipping piss wine, village special fermented urine, mixed with stale berry syrup. I talk to myself because, well, everyone else is either possessed dead or dancing to a goat's fart beat. I toss the skull fragments aside, lean on a fence, and turn to the audience. You people in the future holding tiny, glowing boxes. So, 9 days in the Middle Ages. Still want to go back to the 21st century? Or want to stay and help me uncover the real horror? Day 10. The monster under the common latrine. Either way, strap in. Button up your britches. Don't eat moldy bread. Don't trust rats. And never, ever refuse a skull handshake. Because we still breathe. We still fest. We are still alive. Shitty Pete signing off. Until terror dares me again. Day 10. So you survived the Middle Ages. But at what cost? Oh, if you're reading this, congrats, you crusty bastard. You bloody survived 10 whole days in the festering anus of human history. No soap, no privacy, no clue what the hell was going on, just vibes, vermin, and venereal disease. You've crawled through the muck, the madness, and the medieval mayhem like a worm with a death wish. You've eaten moldy bread that could make you see the Virgin Mary twerking. You drank holy water that was 80% rat piss. You danced at plague parties with people who smelled like expired cheese and made out with each other through holes in bedsheets. And now, you want to strut back into your modern life sipping iced oat milk, matcha swiping left on people named Luna, while complaining about slow Wi-Fi na. Sit down. Shut up. Let me, Shitty Pete, your filthy guide and spiritual hemorrhoid, walk you through what the hell just happened. See, surviving the Middle Ages ain't like beating a video game. There's no level up, no achievement unlocked. It's more like waking up after a night of drinking goat urine and realizing you married your cousin and your left leg's gone. Let's recap, shall we? You survived the first morning, the glorious wake-up call of cow farts, and your neighbor's hemorrhoids exploding mid-prayer. You made it through communal latrines, where privacy meant making eye contact with a beetle while shitting over a plank. You witnessed Brother Gerald bless people by pissing on their wounds and calling it divine intervention. The church said amen and everyone clapped. You danced with plague-ridden peasants in a village rave where half the guests died mid-twerk. You even blew a goat bladder trumpet, while a man in a loincloth passed out from sniffing last year's stored cow farts. Real culture. We learned about the witch trials, also known as yeet her in a pond, and see what happens. If she drowns, oopsie. If she floats, burn the witch. We discovered the healing powers of blowing into a cow's anus. Don't ask me why. Probably invented by some drunk monk who was trying to find the meaning of life inside a cow's digestive tract. And let's not forget, the grand finale screaming into the night covered in fleas, hallucinating conversations with a rat named Greg, who claims he used to be a nobleman cursed by a piss goblin. So yeah, congrats, you made it. But did you really survive? Or did the Middle Ages just take a fat dump on your soul, and now you'll never look at a bucket, a loaf of bread, or a bald priest the same way again? Either way, welcome back, traveler. Now brace yourself. I've got one final tale to tell. One last blast of misery and madness before you crawl back to your sanitized avocado toast life. Ready, tough. We're going in. A tale of turds and tragedy. We begin with one pile of shit and end with several more. Let me tell you something that'll rot your brain faster than a rat chewing on a bishop's foot. Everything in the Middle Ages starts and ends with shit. Not metaphorical shit. Not some poetic, oh, life is crap kind of thing. No, I mean actual steaming, fly-covered, foot-ruining human turds. And today's story, it starts exactly where you expect, the public latrine. Now don't get excited. This ain't some quaint little outhouse with wooden panels and lavender-scented wipes. No, this was a godless pit. A shared trench of nightmares. A demon's salad bowl. A long open plank with holes in it like a flute made by Satan himself. You squat. You shiver. You pray nothing living comes out from underneath. And you do your business while someone else, a stranger with scurvy and a lazy eye, does theirs right beside you. You ever had eye contact with a man while he's grunting out last night's cabbage stew? Because I have, twice. And I'm not proud of this, but we held hands once. For balance. Today, if you step in dog poop at the park, you freak out, right? You go home. You cry. You burn your shoes. You call your therapist. Well, back in my day, stepping in shit was a bloody blessing. It meant you had functioning legs. You hadn't collapsed from dysentery yet. And most importantly, the shit was solid, which meant fewer airborne diseases for all. Honestly, if your morning didn't start with a toe full of stranger turd, you'd think something was wrong. Back to the latrine. So there I was, queuing for my morning squirt, like a respectable villager, when old Martha comes sprinting past, screaming, "Make way, it's coming out hot." She didn't make it. She tripped. Splash! We lost her that day. Well, technically, we found her an hour later covered in 6 people's waste, mumbling the Lord's Prayer backward. But spiritually, she was gone. Anyway, I took my spot, sat on the plank, and started doing my thing. But then I heard it. A splash. Another splash. Then a voice. Oi, whose turd is floating sideways like a canoe. It was Father Bartholomew, the village priest, taking a dump, while identifying turds by shape like some kind of foul sommelier. "That one's Henry's," he said, nodding. "Wife's been feeding him beans again. Poor bastard." And you know what the worst part was? No one washed their bloody hands, ever. You'd pinch one out, wipe with hay or a leaf, or just your tunic if you were in a rush, and walk straight to market like nothing happened. Handling bread, poking pigs, shaking hands, high-fiving kids. Some folks even used the same stick to scrape themselves clean. The community shit stick passed lovingly from ass to ass, like a cursed family heirloom. Now, here's where it gets spicy. Little Tommy, the baker's boy, found a shiny coin in the latrine pit. Instead of thanking the gods and moving on like a sane person, he said, "I'm going in." He tied a rope around his waist, held his breath, and lowered himself into the pit, like some kind of brown-drenched Indiana Jones. He came back up with 1 coin, a plague boil, and a tapeworm the length of a fishing rod. Did it stop anyone from doing the same thing a week later? Nope, because in the Middle Ages, money was worth more than dignity, and dignity had already drowned in that pit years ago. Did you know some castles had toilets that emptied straight onto people walking below? That's right. Imagine strolling along, trying to flirt with a merchant's daughter, and splat, a royal turd ruins your date and your life in one go. Back to the story. So there we are, several of us lined up on the great poop plank TM, shitting in sync like some sad medieval choir, when suddenly the plank cracks. Snap. It drops. All of us. Straight into the collective butthole of the village. It was warm. It was wet. It was full of screams, prayers, and floating turnips. That was the day we learned the phrase, the shittier, the hole, the closer to God. And guess what? After we dragged ourselves out like turd-covered zombies, what did we do? We went back the next day. Why? Because that's just life in the Middle Ages. You don't question it. You just wipe your face with a cabbage leaf. Thank the Lord you didn't drown and move on. Modern folks go on digital detox retreats to reconnect with nature. We had our own version. It was called falling into a poop trench and seeing your dead uncle's tooth floating past. It built character. It built immunity. It built trauma so deep that even our ghosts still flinch at the sound of splashing water. So yes, this tale began with a turd, but by the end of it, we'd seen a priest naming poop, a child spelunking in diarrhea, and a group of men forming a human pyramid to escape a pit of death. And honestly, that wasn't even the worst part of the day. If it moves, roast it. If it doesn't, maybe still roast it. Right, so let's talk about food, or, well, food if you squint hard enough and close your nose. Remember that grand old feast during the village plague party? You know, the one where we celebrated not being dead yet by serving food that could literally make us dead. Let's recap the menu, shall we? Starter moldy-ass bread. But not just any mold. Oh no, this was premium ergot-infested rye. What's ergo? Imagine LSD, but medieval, made by Satan. You eat that shite, suddenly you're dancing barefoot in pig piss, screaming about flying goats. Some folks thought they saw angels. Others thought their legs were on fire. Honestly, kinda the same thing in this time period. Ergo poisoning was real common and terrifying. Whole villages went on unintentional acid trips, convulsing and hallucinating until they literally dropped dead mid-booty shake. The church thought it was demons. The peasants thought it was Tuesday. Main course, one word, toad. Not cooked, not cleaned, just bitten into raw. Because apparently one old bat in the village claimed it looked at her like her late husband. No idea what kind of marriage she had, but if the man was squishy toxic and peed when threatened, she nailed the resemblance. She said the eyes spoke to her. I say the eyes were probably screaming for help. Too bad into the gums he went. Also, pro tip from Pete, if someone in a medieval village claims a toad whispered prophecy to them, it's either early schizophrenia or late-stage worm brain. No in between. And to wash it all down, oh, just some good old homemade wine, made from, wait for it, fermented rat piss water. That's not a euphemism. Some innovative bastard tried fermenting grain using water from a bucket where dead rodents had marinated for several days. Said it added earthy depth. And technically, yeah, it did. Depth straight into the grave. You complain when Starbucks forgets your vanilla shot. Try a world where your only drink option tastes like expired goat tears with a hint of crypt dirt. Where eating out means chewing bark with mold. And every meal's a roulette game. Will I get diarrhea? Hallucinate, die. All three here, not shitting yourself at the table is considered fine dining. Now we peasants, we weren't picky. If it wriggled, we cooked it. If it moved, we stabbed it. If it didn't move, we sniffed it. If it didn't smell that bad, well, dinner time, baby. Ever seen a grown man eat a roasted slug dipped in sheep blood for protein? No, I have. It's called Tuesday. The village motto might as well be, if it ain't green, it's clean. Which is ironic, because the cleanest thing we ever ate was snow. And that was only when we weren't using it to wipe our ass. Oh, and let me paint you a picture of the VIP meal. You know that Michelin star moment in medieval cuisine, 3-day-old pig intestine stew, cooked in a rusty pot, with a garnish of dried dung for aroma, served with a side of beetles for crunch. We called it Bourgout Bourguignon. Gourmet right. It smelled like betrayal and tasted like regret, but it filled your belly, and that's all that mattered. Hell, I once saw a guy cry while eating it, not because it was bad, but because it reminded him of his mum. She'd made it better, with fewer worms. The reason food was so dodgy, preservation barely existed. No fridges, no microwaves, just salt smoke and lies. If you didn't eat it fast, it turned on you like a backstabbing lover with salmonella. Even nobles weren't safe. They just had fancier poisoned dinners. Ooh, roasted swan with gold leaf. Mate, if your cook didn't wash his hands after wiping his ass with hay, you're still eating a surprise shitsplosion. Sometimes a meal was just whatever your neighbor didn't finish. Once I saw a rat run off with a meat bone. Then the butcher caught the rat, cooked it whole, and sold it back to the same neighbor. He called it pre-seasoned. That's entrepreneurship. Now don't get me wrong, we peasants were creative with cuisine. We had to be. One villager even made bog butter. Yes, that's butter buried in a swamp for flavor. Want to know what it tasted like? Imagine licking the inside of a wet boot after a cow shat in it. Then imagine being grateful because it didn't kill you. And you, sitting there in your air-conditioned room with your Uber Eats and your lactose-free almond macchiato. Let me tell you, if you dropped into this village with your kale smoothie and tofu wrap, we'd eat you, because you'd be the cleanest, healthiest, and least wormy thing in a 10-mile radius. So what have we learned in the Middle Ages? Best before didn't exist. Sedate gluten-free meant you were poor. Farm to table meant you had to kill it yourself right after it bit your leg. And organic just meant infested. But hey, at least dinner was never boring. You either feasted like a king or puked like a demon. Sometimes both. And that, my friend, is why I say if it moves, roast it. If it doesn't, sniff it. If it stares at you, bite first. Because in this village, the food chain starts at your toes and ends in your toilet pit. Assuming you had one, which we didn't. We just squatted behind the turnip cart and hoped for the best. I drank with a skull and cried to a three-legged cat. Right, gather round, you filthy little survivors. Now we get to the part where I, your humble, disease-ridden, borderline, hallucinating peasant narrator, officially lost all grasp on reality. Not that I had much to begin with, but this time I was talking to skulls like they were Tinder dates, whispering secrets to a donkey like it's my therapist, and chasing a talking cat across the rooftops like a drunk wizard with rabies. How did we get here? Let's rewind. The day started like every other glorious medieval morning. My bed was a pile of straw soaked with rat piss. I woke up with a mouthful of mud and maybe a beetle, and the smell of fermented human waste politely assaulted my entire soul. Ah, refreshing. But something was different. I could hear music. Not the lute and flute kind of music. I mean cosmic music. Angel choirs doing tick-tock trends in my ears. Turns out I was tripping balls. Again. Why, because the bread I nicked from old widow Marjorie the night before? Moldy. Not oops, it's a little green moldy. I mean ergot-infested, reality-bending, talk to God and accidentally shit yourself moldy. That SHET kills crops and minds. I took a bite, then two, then three. And by the time the sun came up, I was deep in conversation with a skull I found behind the latrine. Oi, Jeffrey, I said to the skull, be honest. Would you still haunt your cheating wife if she moved on with a monk? Jeffrey didn't answer, obviously. But I heard something in my head like, only if he was a Benedictine. I laughed so hard I vomited foam. Then the cat showed up. Now it might have been real, or maybe it was the ghost of the tabby I accidentally stepped on back in day 3. Who knows, but it was limping on 3 legs, had glowing yellow eyes, and spoke with a French accent. The cat told me his name was Jean-Claude, and that I was the chosen one of the dung dimension. I believed him instantly, because I was off my tits. When you're sad in 2025, you post a crying video to TikTok, add a Billie Eilish song, and watch the likes roll in. When I was sad in 1325, I sat behind a goat barn clutching a skull, like it was a teddy bear, whispering about mortality to a cat with mange and possibly a demon inside it. You get therapy. I got fleas. You get prescribed SSRIs. I got a shot of piss wine from Father Gerald. Ergot poisoning from moldy rye is real, and back in the Middle Ages, it caused mass hallucinations, seizures, convulsions, and sometimes entire villages dancing until they dropped dead. It's where St. Vitus' dance came from. People thought it was witches or demons. Nah, mate. It was just bad toast. Back to the vision quest. Jean-Claude the cat led me to the church rooftop where he claimed God left a message under the weather vane. So I climbed, barefoot, bleeding, possibly naked, screaming the lyrics to a Gregorian hymn like it was my national anthem. The villagers looked up and thought it was a miracle. Pete has ascended. One shouted, nay, said another. He's just high as Satan's tit. Both were correct. Up there, wind in my lice-infested hair, I screamed into the void, Lord, if thou existeth, give me a sign, or at least a clean pair of underpants. Lightning struck a pig pen. Message received. Eventually, I was pulled down by 2 monks and a guy named Butterhands Greg, who tied me to a post for my own safety and threw holy water at me while chanting nonsense Latin. One monk even tried to exorcise me by poking my forehead with a spoon. I bit him. You went through your spiritual awakening after one ayahuasca retreat in Bali, and now you do yoga in matching sets. I went through mine, half naked on a roof, talking to a corpse's face and thinking a 3-legged cat was God's messenger. We are not the same. And the best part, when I finally passed out, I had a vision, not of heaven, not of peace. Nope, of a giant turd with wings flying across the sky, yelling at me in my mother's voice. This is what you are. Pete, a talking shached in a dying world. I woke up crying, then laughing, then crying again, then puking into my shoe. And you know what? That night was almost beautiful, in a deeply soul-crushing, fart-scented kind of way. Because even though I was sleep-deprived, poisoned, lice-ridden, and hallucinating rats doing ballet, I also felt something real. Like maybe life is absurd, maybe death is a joke, and maybe, just maybe, the only sane response to the plague, starvation, and living in a toilet with legs is to laugh, to dance, to whisper your secrets to a cat, and make peace with the skull of your enemy. Or maybe that's just what Ergo wants you to think. Anyway, moral of the story: don't eat moldy bread. Don't trust talking cats. And if a skull ever tells you it knows how to break into heaven, ask it if there's soap there. Because Christ knows we need some. Everyone was either slightly insane or absolutely batched by your favorite sewer philosopher, Shitty Pete Wright. So by day 10, the line between just a little weird and lock him in a turnip sack had completely vanished. It was like living in a group therapy session for demons, except no one was getting better and half of them were on fire. Let's begin with the dancing, the great dance till you drop ritual. We all gathered in the square because someone swore their goat saw the Grim Reaper doing the Macarena behind the bakery. Naturally, the solution: dance it off. Not party, not pray. No, dance. People twirled like broken spinning tops, flailing like their knees were made of overcooked eel. Some screamed, some laughed, some pissed themselves mid-waltz. And we called this healing. I asked Father Gerald if this was normal, and he said, it's either demons in the bones or just indigestion. Then he vomited on his shoes and blessed it. Probably both. You go to Zumba for cardio. We did it to scare ghosts and prevent plague. If someone didn't start foaming at the mouth mid-routine, we'd assume the ritual wasn't working. Burn the witch. Sure, she picked mushrooms. You know Margaret's sweet old lady hunchback always smelt like cabbage and regret. She picked a few mushrooms in the woods. Not even magic ones. Just regular little guys with spots. Some dumbass saw her and yelled, "She's making stew for Satan." And that was it. We burned her that evening. No trial, no questions. Just a big old bonfire and a priest yelling Latin he half remembered from when he was drunk. The weird part, everyone cheered, like it was a halftime show. You post a weird salad recipe online and people call you quirky. Margaret adds fungus to soup and boom, roasted like a Thanksgiving turkey, literally. Apparently, letting a dead body just sit there in silence was rude. So we had professional mourners. Imagine this: 5 old women dressed like sadness itself, howling over your corpse like banshees in a wind tunnel. One even brought a tambourine. They didn't even know the dead guy. One of them shouted the wrong name for 10 minutes. Did anyone care, nah? She wailed the loudest, and that's what counts. Sometimes they sang lullabies to corpses. I'm serious. Real songs like "Sleep Now Sweet," "Jacob Don't Rise from the Grave," or "Your Soul Will Go Bald, and Your Feet Will Misbehave." No idea what that means, but it slapped. You play a lo-fi playlist for your pet hamster's funeral and cry in your car. We hired screaming grandmas to serenade a bloated corpse with rhyming threats. Pet rats and their silky outfits. I once saw a grown man dress a rat in a bonnet and call it his guardian of the soul. His name was Bernard. The rat, I mean. The man said Bernard helped guide his dead wife to the afterlife and kept her body warm during cold nights. I asked where he kept the body. He pointed to the cupboard. I did not eat dinner that night, but this wasn't even weird by local standards. Another lad had 3 lizards he said were his spiritual consultants. One of them died mid-prayer, and he still brought it to Mass, dressed in a baby shoe. You've got therapy dogs and weighted blankets. We had rats in bonnets and lizards with jobs. Same vibe, just smellier and more possessed. Everything was haunted, and so were we. There was a woman down the road who swore her baby got stolen by fairies and replaced with a turnip. She kept feeding the turnip for a month before realizing it wasn't crying, it was rotting. And somehow, she wasn't the craziest person in town. That title went to a man named Clive, who married a broom and claimed it cheated on him with a crow. No one helped these people. Why, because we were all one bad mushroom away from losing it ourselves. Better to let Clive have his heartbroken broom marriage, then admit our own hallucinations were getting flirty. You take a mental health day and journal with scented candles. We shoved herbs up our noses and argued with doors. Moral of the story, everyone was mad. If you weren't mad, you were just quiet about it. And if you were too quiet, we assumed you were possessed and threw you in the pig pond. But hey, that's community, right? And if I had to choose between emotional support rats, corpse lullabies, and screaming mushroom dancers versus today's therapy apps and green smoothies, well, at least our madness had style. Stay unhinged, Shitty Pete, certified rodent whisperer, exorcist, by accident and survivor of 9 too many dance curses. The survival skills of Shitty Pete.
And so 10 days in the medieval shithole and I, Shitty Pete, proud owner of 3 fleas, 1 questionable mole and 0 dignity, have survived. Not thrived. Survived. Like a worm in a spoiled apple. Now you might be wondering, Pete, what noble skills have you gained in this hellhole of rot rats and religious gaslighting? Well, sit tight, modern softy. I'm about to reveal my hard-earned survival toolkit after 10 days in the most deranged, disease-ridden, diarrhea-drenched era in history. Telling apart human turds. By smell. Yes, you heard that right. It's not a talent, it's trauma with a nose. The public latrine. It's basically a human stew pot of piss, prayer, and poo. You slip on someone's log once you curse the gods. Slip twice. You learn. Slip 3 times. You become a connoisseur. Some were rich in cabbage. Others screamed, "Father Bernard has been eating dried fish again." You gag stepping on dog poop at the park. I was out here sniffing turds, like I'm auditioning for a perfume line ode to nobility with notes of barley and despair. Is it useful in 2025? Absolutely not, unless you work as a porta-potty sommelier. Eating toads without dying. Here's a hot take. If it moves and doesn't curse you, eat it. On day 6, I saw old Mother Agnes suck on a toad like it was a mint. She said, "It looked at me like it wanted to be eaten." And I said, "Lady, you need exorcism or a sandwich, or both." I too had to nibble a toad once, skin it first, boil it, and pray to 3 saints. If you feel your tongue tingle and your soul leave your nipples, maybe stop. You threw a tantrum 'cause your Starbucks was missing a vanilla shot. Try catching dinner with your hands and hoping it doesn't scream Latin back at you. Screaming about demons to avoid village taxes. Now this one's gold. See our tax collector? Sir Reginald the Nose was a smug bastard who'd sniff out coins like a bloodhound. But he feared one thing, demons. So what did I do? Simple. When he came asking for grain I didn't have, I rolled my eyes, shook violently, and yelled, "Lucifer wants your pants." Next thing I know, he's pissing himself and galloping off like a spooked donkey. You fake migraines to skip Zoom meetings. I faked possession to dodge death by taxation. Who's the real professional here, singing lullabies to corpses? Let me explain before you report me to whatever agency deals with medieval mental health. There's a job here called keening you, basically scream sob at funerals to soothe the dead into the afterlife. I got paid in soup to wail at old man Tobias's stiff, bloated corpse. It was me, one goat, and his weird niece who tried to flirt mid-dirge. I sang a lovely number called "Please Don't Haunt My Outhouse."
top 10 performance, I'd say. You do ASMR great. Try it next to a rotting corpse while rats applaud. Unless you're into deathcore TikTok, this one's best left in the 1300s. Dancing like a possessed turnip to cure mental illness. Now here's the real madness. People here think that if you dance like a goat on fire, it'll chase out the demons. So when little Hugo screamed that he heard voices, they didn't take him to therapy. Nope, they made him dance for 7 hours to the rhythm of one guy hitting a log with a bone. Out of curiosity and a desperate need for exercise, I joined. And guess what? My back pain went away. Probably from the sheer terror of movement. Y'all post TikTok dances for clout. We danced to save our souls. Who's mentally stable now, huh? Bonus skill whispering secrets to a goat. I confided in a goat named Beatrice. She didn't judge, didn't gossip, just stared deep into my soul and occasionally shat near my shoes. In a world where the church calls soap suspicious and death comes in your soup, having a goat therapist is, honestly, not the worst. You cry to your therapist $200 an hour. I cried to Beatrice, and she gave me emotional support and free cheese. So what have we learned after 10 days of dodging plague, sniffing shit, and arguing with rodents? I've emerged stronger, stinkier, and strangely wiser. No one taught me these skills. The filth did. The madness did. The goat did. You might not need to sniff poop or eat frogs in your world, but if you ever do, remember Shitty Pete, the man who danced with ghosts, lied to taxmen, kissed a toad, and still made it to day 11. Barely. Now, excuse me, I've got a dead squirrel to boil. Dancing madness was real. People infected with ergot, a toxic fungus on rye, would hallucinate and dance non-stop sometimes until their hearts gave out. Keening at funerals was an actual job. Loud, dramatic grief was seen as essential. People did believe demons caused illnesses, and yes, faking possession could save your ass. So next time you complain about Wi-Fi, try surviving a conversation with a moldy toad and a goat therapist. So what now, back to 2025, or die in a pile of hay with me? 10 days. 10 fucking days of rotting meat, ghost soup, and barefoot witch chasing. And yet, here I am, somehow still alive. Not sure if it's resilience or just that my body's too stubborn to die. But listen, after all that, after sleeping in pig piss and talking philosophy with a dead man's skull, I started thinking, what's next? Like actually, what now? You, who have been watching me suffer like it's a goddamn reality show for medieval masochists. Timmy, let me ask you something. Do you go back to modern life? Netflix plumbing that doesn't involve a bucket food, that doesn't still have hooves attached, and a bed that doesn't creak like a dying goat every time you breathe, or do you stay here with me, your pal Pete, snuggling up with plague rats howling at ghosts, and occasionally being accused of witchcraft because your pee smells funny? Think about it. No more bills. No more passive-aggressive Slack messages from Susan in accounting. No more ex texting high at 2 a.m. like they didn't destroy your soul last winter. Sure, here you might die from stepping on a pointy twig or drinking water that passed through a corpse, but at least you won't die of burnout. And let me tell you what I've learned from this delightful hellhole we call the Middle Ages. Pete's survival lessons. A curriculum for idiots. Lesson 1. You can identify human shit by the smell. Absolutely useless unless you plan on working as a poop sommelier or starting a YouTube channel called Guess That Turd Lesson 2. You can eat frogs, toads, and maybe demons. I didn't die. I hallucinated for 7 hours, yes, but technically didn't die. Lesson 3. If you scream loud enough and pretend to be possessed, people leave you alone. Taxes. Nah, mate. I just go full exorcist mode, drool a bit, and boom, no one bothers me. Highly recommended if you work in corporate. Lesson 4. Lullabies for corpses exist. Apparently, the dead need a soundtrack. I've sung more ballads to rotting villagers than to any actual date I've had. Lesson 5. Dancing like a lunatic cures everything. Got a fever, got anxiety, got a demon in your arse? Just spin in circles, scream Latin backwards, and rub ash on your nipples. Medieval medicine, baby. Everyone's lost it. And I might be next. It's not just me going nuts out here. Yesterday I saw a guy cuddle a rat in a wedding dress and whisper to it, calling it Grandpa. There's a job here called wailer for hire old ladies you pay to scream next to corpses so their souls feel cared for. And don't get me started on the mushroom girls. One sniffed a red-capped mushroom and tried to baptize a goose. The village then burned her alive for being too earthy. This is life now. Everyone's a little mad, or fully fucking deranged. And honestly, I feel at home. But real talk, my brain's toast. I think the moldy bread finally got to my skull, like properly. Sometimes at night I stare into the fire and the fire winks at me. Sometimes the dead schoolmaster's skull says things like, "Don't trust the soup," and I listen. Sometimes I wake up in the pig pen with my pants on backwards and the word "sorry" written on my chest in goat blood. Do I know who did that? Yes, it was me. Shitty Pete's final message. For now. So if someone ever asks you, "Hey, was the Middle Ages fun?" tell them, "Yeah. If you're a worm living in a dung heap, fucking paradise. But if you're a person, good luck, mate. Don't breathe too deep. Don't trust bread that's too white. And if a man offers you soup but won't explain the smell, run. You've made it. 10 days. That's more than most people here manage. You've danced with demons, peed near royalty, and watched a woman try to exorcise her own cow. Welcome to the club. This age is filthy, dumb, loud, horny. But hey, no work emails, no two-factor authentication, no subscription services canceling the day of the season finale. So would I do it again? Maybe. If there's a next life, maybe I'll come back as a worm in a priest's wine barrel, or a cockroach living in the queen's tiara, or a jester's fart in the wind. But one thing's for sure. As long as I still got a mouth, I'll still be here, cursing, spitting, surviving. So, if you want more tales, I'll tell you what happened when we were reincarnated as cockroaches in the French palace. If not, welcome back to 2025. Bitch, go hug your toilet, kiss your hand sanitizer, and thank whatever deity you believe in that you're not sleeping next to a skull named Gregory. Still alive. Then you win. Well, if you made it to the end of this episode without puking, fainting, or questioning your entire diet.
You deserve a bloody knighthood. We've seen a lot today, haven't we? People snacking on hallucinogenic bread like it's a casual edible. Grandmas biting live toads because they looked soulful. Pete chatting with skulls, breakdancing on rooftops with cats, and narrowly escaping death by plague water. And don't even get me started on the plague nurses dressing like haunted birdmen or villagers dancing themselves into heart attacks because someone farted and they thought it was Satan. You've walked through 10 days of absolute historical what the fuckery. And guess what? You survived. In the Middle Ages, that alone makes you a legend. So tonight, wherever you are, curled up in a warm bed, not sharing your mattress with rats, fleas, or a suspicious goat, take a second to breathe. No one's vomiting black bile near you. No one's burning your neighbor for picking mushrooms. And your water probably doesn't have a corpse floating in it. That's progress. And maybe, just maybe, the chaos of the past can make you appreciate the ridiculous beauty of now. Yes, life can still be awful. Rent is due. The world is weird. Your boss sucks. People chew too loud. But at least you're not being accused of witchcraft for washing your hands. At least you're not drinking fermented mouse piss because someone said it clears the spirit. You've got a brain, you've got memes, you've got deodorant. And maybe, most importantly, you've got the choice to laugh at history and say, damn, we really made it through that. So here's your bedtime toast. Peasant, to surviving another day, to still having your toes, to still being able to dance, but not until death. May your dreams tonight be less full of talking skulls and more full of hope, comfort, and a bit of absurdity. Because the world has always been mad. But as long as you can laugh, rest, and wake up tomorrow ready to shout, let's do it again, then you're already winning. Good night, Plague Dodger. Sleep tight. And if your bread looks a bit moldy, maybe don't eat it. The end.